Presenter is Mr. Hollowell. Good evening.
Holloway.
Holloway, I apologize.
That's okay, Mr. Glenn. Good evening. I would like to thank the Parks and Recreation Department, the commissioners, Bob Sinkowski, and his staff. We join the others here tonight who love and care about the Willows, this wonderful, historic property that is so near and dear to all of our hearts. C.F. Holloway III and Company is pleased to submit our plan for a collaborative effort to assure the future of the Willows. To most mainline residents, and even to the casual passerby, it is the striking viewshed of the Willows from Darby Paoli Road that is the property's most iconic aspect. In autumn or spring, summer or winter, the sweep of the hills from the mansion down to the pond, over to the cottage, and back up to the sledding slopes of our youth are etched into our memories and fill our photo albums. It is C.F. Holloway's mission to improve and develop the property in a manner that preserves this familiar viewshed and precious parkland for generations to come, so that the Willows will always be the mainline fixture that it has been for more than 100 years. I'd like to briefly summarize our proposal. There will be little change to over 80% of the property. We will dredge the pond, refresh the pathways and plantings, and stabilize any trees that need attention. We see this as a great opportunity to enhance the entire Willows site. This site plan, outlined in yellow, illustrates the existing conditions at the Willows. It consists of 47 acres. The entrance is at the lower side of Darby Paoli Road. On our plan, the familiar entrance will be retained and refreshed. The road will remain one way, retaining its rural character, and since parking is a prime concern, we have reworked it for convenience and use. We will execute a complete renovation of the historic Willows Cottage and Willow Mansion buildings. Here is our proposed new site plan. Notice the entry point is the same. At the cottage, we will show a better parking configuration. Moving on past the pond, we have relocated this parking area closer to the intersection. The road up to the mansion will be widened, allowing two-way use, and a sidewalk along the street line drive, both for safety and better circulation. We have also enlarged the mansion parking lot adjacent to the building that can accommodate more mansion functions. We propose building 28 single-family cottages in these two peripheral locations on the property, 4.9 acres behind the mansion on the southwest ridge and 4 acres on the northeast ridge. I will come back to these in more detail. Most importantly, of the 47 acres, 38 acres will remain unchanged for township use, and a new revenue stream will be created, ensuring the permanent stability of the Willows. Let me talk more specifically about the renovations. Most importantly, we have extensive renovation experience. Throughout this presentation, we are using some vision inspiration images that will help you better visualize our concepts. The Willows Cottage. As the gateway building to the Willows property, we think it is important to bring the Willows Cottage up to a standard that will be both historically sensitive and functionally practical for continued community use and for limited commercial use. While there has been some partial renovation in recent times, we think the building needs a comprehensive vision and plan. Our proposed use for the Willows Cottage is as the new headquarters for the Radnor Conservancy, as well as for the Willows Property Grounds Maintenance Office and equipment storage. We also see the space as being ideal for a seasonal and weekend Willows snack shack, where Radnor and Willows memorabilia merchandise could be available for purchase. The grounds and parking lot will be utilized to their greatest potential with some practical reconfiguration. Outside patios and decks could be very attractive and appropriate here, as shown on this slide, and will be considered in the overall plan. The charming, fully remodeled Willows Cottage lends itself beautifully to the uses we suggest. Public bathrooms will be located here for park-goer use. The Willows Mansion. Charles Barton Keene, a renowned and prolific architect of country homes on the East Coast, designed the original house for the Sinai family in 1910, who called it Rose Garland. The Zanzinger family bought the house in the 30s, renaming it Marrow Brook. Radnor Township acquired the estate in the 70s, calling it the Willows. After touring the building, we are confident we can achieve a comprehensive modernization and restoration of the mansion's former grace and glory, allowing it to be utilized to its full potential. For the Willows Mansion entry courtyard and parking, we envision the grand entrance approach as it was intended when it was built, where guests and partygoers were dropped off for historic, elegant function. This will be refurbished and landscaped in a style that was intended. The Willows site is all about the views. Currently, these bucolic vistas are underappreciated from inside the building. We will redesign the existing solarium addition shown here to be more architecturally compatible with the original house. Our renovation plan will skillfully address new windows and additional patio access doors and provide permanent fittings for easy patio tenting. Interior renovation includes redesigning the larger rooms and raising ceiling heights in strategic areas. The plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems will be updated or replaced as necessary. Fire sprinklers and security system will be installed, and the staircase will be totally refurbished. We will assess the existing kitchen furnishings and redesign the kitchen with the anticipated event use in mind. New restrooms will be designed and installed and meet ADA code requirements. A key part of the plan for the refurbished facility is the installation of state-of-the-art electronic technology, since research shows corporate meetings use requires this. Corporation and business use events would give the Willows higher consideration with these amenities. Management and catering. With a revitalized facility, more weddings, corporate meetings, retreats, and parties of all types could be regionally marketed. Radnor's Chanticleer and Wayne Arts Center could generate other events. The township itself can sponsor its own programs at the Willows Mansion. Sunday morning yoga classes, small musical performances, special Radnor school events, Radnor Historical Society lectures, and summer movies under the stars. Among these offering proposals here tonight are some of the finest and most qualified companies whose expertise is in running successful facilities such as the new Willows will be. It makes the most sense to us for Radnor to enter into a formal contractual relationship with a professional private entity to provide the goods and services required. We would like to work from the outset with township staff to design the space for the most economically profitable outcome. New residential housing, Rose Garland, and Marrow Brook at the Willows. The addition of some limited contextually appropriate residential development will be an ongoing source of revenue for Radnor and will help to provide for the permanent protection and restoration of the Willows. Since the site is rolling and some areas are heavily wooded, we think clustered single-family homes strategically sited to blend into the land's contours, married with the aesthetics of the charming architecture, are the perfect combination for this site. This slide shows a community of similar homes that we built in Newtown Square, which also took advantage of the rolling wooded landscape. For Rose Garland and Marrowbrook, we have borrowed from the style of the original Willows Cottage, with an updated architecture that would be in keeping with the existing buildings. Each home will have a 2-car garage and room in the driveway for guest parking. Here again is our proposed new site plan, showing the 28 single-family cottages, also known as Z-lots, in these 2 locations. We have relocated the Willows parking lot here into a flat, discrete spot next to an already wooded area, which will better serve park goers and mansion events. The 2 peripheral locations for the new homes were carefully chosen. This slide shows the 4.9 acres for the 16 Rose Garland homes on the southwest ridge more closely. The heavily treed area up and across from the mansion remains, and there is existing adjacent housing across a very wooded area at Round Hill, as well as across from the new Worthing development in Newtown Township. The rising contour lines indicate the changing elevation, which is very graceful for siting the cottage homes tucked into the hillside. This slide shows some of the Rose Garland views. Let me point out the Marrowbrook site here. It was chosen for its higher elevation and because there are heavily wooded areas on both sides of the one-way road. The 4 acres on this northeast ridge for the 12 Marrowbrook homes works extremely well because it is at a higher elevation and will be partially shielded by those large stands of trees. The cul-de-sac gently rises and the homes gracefully branch off. This slide shows some of the Marrowbrook vistas from the top of the hill. Economics. They say worlds collide. In addition to our experience and capability for implementing this historic project, first and foremost, we propose an equal property exchange. Our wooded 8.9-acre property at 800 Goshen Road on Darby Creek for the 2 4.09-acre and 4.87-acre parcels, as shown on our proposed concept plan. This would be a valuable new township asset, resulting in no net loss of township park area. These slides show our property from several different vantage points along Darby Creek and at the entrance of Goshen Road. C.F. Holloway III and Company will bear all costs to renovate the mansion and cottage and repair and refurbish the roads, grounds, parking, and the pond. We will work with Radnor Township during this process in order to ensure that any renovations are consistent with their plans. Our investment for these improvements is estimated at $1,579,000, as indicated on this slide. As I stated, the Willows property and buildings will be improved without burdening the taxpayer. The Willows Mansion Cottage and common area view shed and parklands will be protected for generations to come. The Willows Mansion and Cottage should become profitable for the first time with a new renovation and partnering with the new management catering company. As indicated on this slide, the annual revenue from taxes and the new management catering contract total an estimated $791,000. I am very proud and confident that C.F. Holloway III and Company has the unique combination of qualifications to undertake this historic project. With 35 years of development and building experience, I know we have the depth, skill, and knowledge to collaborate with Radnor Township. And we have already assembled the creative team to successfully orchestrate, navigate, and execute this exciting Willows rescue and renaissance. Our projects in Radnor include D'Orsay, Montparnasse, Villeneuve, Rittenhouse Arbor, Applegate, Steepleview, 102 Luella, and Luella House, currently under construction on Luella Court, an 1867 landmark building. It is no coincidence that C.F. Holloway has selected so many properties to develop in Radnor. Our offices have been located here for over 20 years, and we take pride in the fellowship and association with so many others who have located their businesses in Radnor. Our roots here run very deep. We love Radnor, and we have confidence in continuing to develop and build homes here, contributing to the lofty legacy of responsible, forward-thinking development that epitomizes Radnor Township. The team we have assembled at this juncture consists of 4 longtime partners in multiple projects. All are well known for their extensive work in Radnor. Their familiarity with the community and its ordinances is a critical component. Kevin Momini of Momini Associates, highly respected engineers whose offices are located in Radnor Township, and who has done Steepleview and 102 Luella with us recently. Tim Wayans, Gate 17 Architecture, has partnered with us with many developments, most recently Luella House, which I just had up on the screen. John Snyder and David Falcone, David's here tonight, of Saul Ewing, lend their legal expertise to this important venture. And finally, Penn Liberty Bank has been involved in many of our projects and has a trusted presence in the community. Our entire team shares a personal passion and enthusiasm for meaningful development. We know that with the mutual commitment of Radnor Township and our team, we can structure a well-balanced, harmonious approach for this historic collaborative undertaking. Will there be some change to the Willows? Yes. Change for the better. Change that will help to permanently sustain it, improve it for cherished community use, and make it more desirable for valuable commercial use. New homes will bring new Radnor Township families. People just like all of us here tonight who seek out the special community for all it offers. New homes and a newly refurbished facility means new jobs, new taxpayers, new vitality, and new growth. A little bit of responsible, thoughtful change can yield stupendous results for many. We very much look forward to being part of the Willows project and are invested in preserving this vital and valuable Radnor Township asset for generations to come. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. An excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions, comments?
I have a quick
Yes.
question.
Yes, sir.
I guess part of your proposal is sort of the exchange, I guess sort of the almost equal exchange of the property on 800 Goshen Road.
Yes.
For where we're going to be building the 2 sets of houses. What's the 800 Goshen Road currently zoned for?
R1.
R1?
It's actually just one single family lot.
Okay. And have you guys made any estimates about what your asking prices will be for the homes that you propose to be building yet?
No, we estimated $1 million to $1.2 million per house.
Per house?
Yes.
And then also, I know you mentioned that you have...
And that's how we came up with the tax assessment.
And then also, I know you mentioned that your financing team includes Penn Liberty.
That's correct.
And so they've committed onto this project, or is that something that's...
Yes, because right now they currently have a mortgage on 800 Goshen Road, so they're kind of... They were... is Michael here? My loan officer was the first one I went to back in July when the Parks and Recreation and the staff started these meetings. I had to make sure they were on board because that was a linchpin of our whole proposal.
Mr. Holloway, could you,
Yes.
I know the specifics of it probably remain for down the road if you are the successful person. How would you envision the continued use of the mansion by Radnor Township for their activities? I know you touched on it a little with some things, but how would you
Well,
envision that? Could
our
the township
expert-
continue to use?
Absolutely. Our plan is to totally restore the mansion, the cottage, the grounds. And those 38 acres will remain the exclusive use of the township residents. We're not proposing for the 28 homeowners to have uses other than taxpayers like everybody else in the township. Our expertise is developing and restoring both old properties and doing new properties. And we felt that when we looked at this proposal, we looked at what we could do to bring the property up to the standards that are needed in order to effectively have commercial events at both the Willows and the cottage. So we envision that we're just bringing the asset up to current codes, totally refurbishing it, really bringing it back to the way it looked back when it was built. And then it's going to be much easier for the township to maintain it going forward because everything will be new.
But you do envision the mansion being used for affairs, wedding receptions, and so on?
Exactly like.
Managed by your company?
No. I
Okay.
want to be clear on that.
Okay.
That's not our expertise. We know you're going to hear tonight from very successful, very good catering management companies that are presenting proposals in addition to our proposal. So we see the township being able to enter into a partnership with one of those private entities to either do a lease to allow them to run it or a partnership to run it so that the facility could continue to operate the way it has been, but ensuring that there's so many more activities that could be done there because the facilities have been brought up to the standards that are needed, fire protection, code compliance, those things. So no, our proposal is bringing the property, restoring the whole property, and then we would develop our 28 single-family homes that those 28 families would have a vested interest in the Willows because that would be their home. So we see it as a win-win because now the property at night, it's empty and it's unprotected. So by having the families living there, they have a vested interest because it's home, but the open space, the vista, that horseshoe, I think that Kevin Kachansky called it at one of the meetings, around within the drive remains unchanged for future generations.
So there
Mr.
would-
Holloway, I just want to jump in because
Yes.
we do have a schedule that we're trying to stick to
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm sorry, I was just the
So we do have Cross Street Partners that's going to be up next, so we do want to keep it moving, just in preservation of the
I'm
schedule
sorry,
that we have.
I'm a
Just
couple
one more,
minutes-
can I ask one more question, timeline? If you were to get the go-ahead, how long would this take? Are you planning on building all 28 houses at one time, or are they going to be built on spec or not on spec, but as
No,
people?
we would do the houses in phasing. We would recommend doing Rose Garland behind the mansion first. At the same time, we would renovate the mansion and the cottage. We would anticipate that the renovation process would take a year to do the grounds and the two buildings. It would take probably 6 months to do the improvements on the Rose Garland site. That job would take maybe 18 months to 24 months. and then we would move to the Marrowbrook. But the property would remain open once we got all the renovations done. And the park could remain open even while the mansion and the cottage was being developed.
Mr. Holly, one last question.
Yes.
Once you've completed the renovations and the building of the 28 cottages, then what you're saying is that you would be removed from any involvement with the property in those cottages going forward. You've done your job, you've built them, the house has been sold, and then you're done.
That's
You're
correct.
out. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Next up is the group from Cross Street Partners.
Could you help me queue up the, okay, great. Good evening, I'm Brad Palmer. I am principal representing Cross Street Partners. We're a local real estate redevelopment and investment firm founded in 2010 that's focused on adaptive reuse of historic properties. And we pursue projects that improve and contribute to greater living in the community. Radnor Township has been given amazing park property assets. The question of how to steward well, what has been entrusted to us, we face afresh here at this crossroads of the Willows as to whether this is a liability or whether it's an opportunity. We see an opportunity to adaptively create spaces that will provide the most enjoyment to a wide range of residents and people. The Willows, as truly unique, is a string of 3 parks with Sawmill Park, Skunk Hollow Park, Willows Park together create a contiguous 150 acres of property here in the heart of the main line. And it feels like you're out in the countryside, but actually within a 5 square mile radius, there's 150,000 suburban people. So how to intentionally tie together the property assets of a mansion and the cottage, the pond, open meadows, the community gardens, the water interests, the trails, the connections to these other parks, all these things. How do you pull these together to create something greater than it is the sum of the parts? What is the greatest use? And a great use is to be able to serve the most people. So what attracts the people and how do we get them to come? How do you create a space that is a magnet for people, that's a destination? And the heart of our idea is farm to table, which is we're proposing a farm to market, harvest to table backbone or framework, if you will, that carries the farm to table experience through a number of different elements. There are complementary businesses that overlap, yet also intentionally integrate with one another to complete a complete farm to table experience. So complete experience is expressed here on the slide through these different elements of farm, eat, celebrate, educate, recreate, and we'll take a look at those. The farm is historically the trusted and healthy source of food, and healthy eating's back in style. And as we all know, our awareness is growing and extends to knowing what the origin is of things that are on our table or on our plate. We're all interested more to learn more about the foods that we get and how we get them and what is healthy and good for us. We're interested in the whole cycle. We're interested in the complete experience of our food, and the farm is the basis of that cycle. Since the beginning, people have made what they needed and taken it from the land, and these old talents we're seeing as being revisited and relearned afresh. The most delicious things that we have, that we can get, we know these little small batch crafted things, often done by artisanal talent. And whether the Willows is producing honey or cheese or microbrew, the microproduction captures our imagination as well as our taste buds. And we built a space dedicated to microproduction operations. There would be an open platform that would be ideal for educational interaction for the kids and the people in the community. Ties into instructional classes and such. Reference on the slide here is Wybrook Farm, and put a couple different specific references throughout the presentation that I'll refer to that represent different places that are really doing an exceptional job of the whole farm-to-table experience. Wybrook Farms here in Pennsylvania, they have a field, they have their animals out in the field. They have a barn that they repurposed and redid. It now houses some of their micro-production that they do, the small batch things that they serve. on their menu, on their farm. They do a good job of seeking to educate people. They're a great example of really doing this well. So microproduction, meaning the different small batch items that are produced, end up on menus of restaurants, and they also end up on our home tables. So imagine at the Willows these dining spaces, a couple different ones, indoors and outdoors, on the property, sited across from the fields from which the ingredients are contributing to the menu and informing what's on your menu. And after dinner, you take a stroll in the park. I mean, it's really an enviable evening and experience. Blue Hill Farm is in New York State, and they have a restaurant on their farm property. They also have a sister restaurant in Manhattan that's very successful and draws upon the farm. They have a field-to-menu approach using local ingredients and things that they craft there. They have a spectacular event space that they've done on the site, and so they're an example of somebody doing really well, pairing this farm-to-table dining along with event and gathering space. And Celebrate is all about events. It's about entertaining and gathering. People love to gather and to celebrate, and people want to connect with one another around a shared experience. And this Willows setting offers several event space opportunities, indoors and outdoors. Of course, there's the mansion, which is and will be an event facility for corporate events and weddings. It begs for an additional space that can accommodate larger gatherings and crowds. And a barn, for example, is architectural vernacular that ties right in with the farm-to-table concept and with the other pieces of the plan, in which could be designed as a multi-purpose facility. You can have, of course, catered events in there. You can have shows. You can have fairs. You can have entertainment. You can be rented for a community space, for nonprofit fundraisers, a whole variety of things. And it gives the community a range of options and can use the park even more through these expanded facilities. Blackberry Farm is down in Tennessee, and Blackberry Farm does this par excellence. They are consistently in the top 10 destination resorts in the United States, despite the fact that they are kind of in the middle of nowhere in the hills of the Great Smokies. And part of the reason for their success is that they do this farm-to-table complete experience so well. Now, they also add overnight accommodations, and the overnight accommodations allow people, of course, to extend their gatherings and be able to even be immersed in the experience. Blackberry Farm does a lot of educating and getting people into the land, and they just have a nice, really wide range of experience for people. So the overnight accommodations are a natural extension of event and dining venues and the event and dining things. So these overnight rooms would provide visitors the opportunity, as I mentioned, to extend their gatherings and to access some of the other amenities, to become fully immersed in the farm-to-table experience. And rooms be sited outside the existing buildings, be sited on the hill or in the woods. The idea of outdoor lodgings in some place so close to the city as we are is really a unique idea and will be a wonderfully unique experience. The Post Ranch Inn is out in California. They are nestled up against the Big Sur State Park. They're somebody that does this small rooms that are architecturally embedded, so to speak, both in the way that they're designed visually and aesthetically, but also in the way that they connect with the land and are sited for views and other things. And Post Ranch Inn uses the overnight experience as a way to connect people to the land and the other things they have going on. Now, out in the middle of Lancaster County every day, people are experiencing the whole farm-to-table cycle. Well, we don't do that seated here in Radnor, but imagine if we really did have that in our own backyard. So the local farming and the micro-production at the Willows, we would have backyard access to educational opportunities for kids and for adults, and frankly, along each touch point in this space on this property, whether it's gardens and ponds or whether it's the woods, whether it's taking the food and then out of the gardens and you're making something with it, all these different points are opportunities for education, especially for kids, of course for adults too, in terms you can also have chef classes and cooking instruction. But The neat thing is it provides this exceptional opportunity for our next generation, for the kids, because it is right here in our backyard. We referenced the Rodale Institute on here. They're in Pennsylvania, and because for 50 years they've been doing on-site farming, organic farming specifically, and with a significant element of education and instruction in there, and you can visit their farm. In terms of recreate, with 100-plus acres of contiguous recreational land, there are natural buffers that exist between the active and the passive uses, and those buffers could even be enhanced. The idea here is that the successful community parks they intentionally pair passive and active uses in order to draw a whole range of users and make the best use of the park. One side benefit of this is the integrated health offerings to the community, because you've got recreational health and food health right next to each other, going on together, encouraging one another. Central Park Conservancy, referenced on the slide here, refers to Central Park, New York. Central Park Conservancy and the City of New York are a successful long-term public-private partnership. They make the most of this space for a whole variety of uses in Central Park. It's amazing what the Central Park Conservancy has really made Central Park what it is. And they have a nice mix of commercial interest and park uses that work together well, that actually support one another and rely on one another to some extent. So near the center of our idea is taking this intentional view of 3 parks in one that we have there on that site, and aligning these goals that are in the adaptive uses as well as in the conventional park uses. We want to find shared success between resident wishes, township vision, and market realities. So just as the Willows was secured 40 years ago by foresighted residents, now we need some new foresight to determine how it can benefit the next generation. The Willows is an opportunity for our community, and what might be constraints of open space, of wetlands, of old historic buildings, these things are actually strengths to the right plan. And the farm-to-table idea is ideal for integrating public spaces, agricultural uses, and commercial interests all in this property. The Willows, in quotes, is the name of what's something bigger. It is a farm-to-table hamlet that we create here in Radnor to benefit the Radnor community right here in our own backyard. And these integrated solutions that all work together around farm, eat, small batch production, celebrate, educate, recreate, these create a draw for people, and they bring people in to do the same things that they can share with others, where they can learn, where they can make memories together. And this is an opportunity for our township to partner in creating something very special for all its residents. Thank you for hearing our proposal. We realize that the conceptual nature of this presentation raises a lot more questions than it provides answers, and so we'll do our best to answer questions at that level this evening.
Thank you, Brad. Very innovative. We appreciate it. One question I have is, do you envision, or are you not that far down the process, that restaurants or eating would be contained in the Willows and the cottage? And could you comment a little bit more about the lodging vision that you have?
Okay. In terms of dining and entertainment, in terms of events as well, all these we have seen in some of the places that we reference is working best when they're all together. And it looks like different things in terms of what all together means on different properties. It depends on how much space you're working with. It depends on if there's one operator for all of them or whether they are complements to one another that are independently run. And one of the things I really like about this proposal and the idea in general is the reuse of the cottage and of the mansion. And so we really see those facilities as being ideal to house cafe, restaurant, events. As we mentioned, I think the property, I think the use of events, both as the mansion is currently in terms of being used for events, also particularly in the future, it begs for an additional facility to allow for larger gatherings. That's where it really hits its sweet spot, is when you're able to offer a range of size of spaces to accommodate different gatherings. Not all gatherings are really big. They're not less significant. And so maybe it doesn't go without saying, we should say that in terms of the mansion and the cottage, our vision for those is a very sensitively blended restoration with what makes it useful for modern amenities and compliant. And the same thing would apply to any additional building that was put on the property.
Thank you, Brad. Other questions?
I have a couple questions. Brad, I know, so I just want to make sure I understand. The proposal is that you would sort of work as a partner to help us come up with what we would be doing going forward at this property? Is that what your proposal is? Or is it what we were doing within this property under the farm-to-table, I guess, umbrella?
So we're proposing to bring the whole farm-to-table solution
Okay,
generally, as it's been outlined,
okay.
and to be the general partner for that with the township. So in terms of the lines of where they're drawn between what a partnership with the township looks like and what the responsibilities of the developer look like, obviously that involves a longer conversation. But at the initial thinking is that without actually knowing much detail what the township's interest would be, and I assume it's part of this process, is trying to figure out where the township's comfortable with in terms of what their responsibilities are ongoing and what kind of control they need. I'm a resident of the township. I think that long-term control of the property is a good thing. I think that kind of arrangement can be figured out so that you can have this going on there, and you can have accountability to its excellence, and yet the township, over the long term, still has control of the land.
And also, I know in your proposal, in the written pieces, you talk about you provide on page 10, 2 different tests.
Right.
And one of them has a question about crossing the line into residential. I mean, are you just saying that's something that's always out there for the township to
Correct.
consider? Or is that something that you envision part of the farm-to-table proposal, not proposal, but idea?
I think it's an option that the township needs to consider and make a decision on.
Okay, but it's not like you have a specific idea for residential development as
I
part of the
don't.
farm? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Up next is DePaulo Design and Planning and 100th Street Development. If they could come up, we'd appreciate it.
This is the clicker.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Victor DiPaolo, land planner and landscape architect, and the representative for the 100th Street Development Group for the Willows. The format for our presentation will be, I will give an introduction of the team and the project. David Schultz, our architect, will lead you through some visuals of our concept and atmosphere for the architecture, etc. And then I will close with a summary of our proposal. The members of our team include, for the 100th Street LLC, who are doing a project similar to this called the Reeds at Shelter Haven in Stone Harbor, New Jersey. If you vacation down there this summer, you will see its grand opening. We, being land planners and landscape architects, will be involved in the necessary planning, zoning, et cetera, and site development of the project. David A. Schultz, Das Architects, nationally known for entertainment and restaurant design, et cetera. Island Construction, Jimmy Moore is here, who is working with the group already on a project and has over 25 years' experience as construction manager. And Brûlé Catering with Jean-Marie Lacroix, master chef, being the restaurateur for the group. The Willows itself has a significant memory for me, as I was previously a resident here for 13 years and raised our children when they were very young, and went to the Willows on various occasions for weddings, community functions, sledding. My son caught his first fish there. So we have a very good understanding of the Willows, et cetera. One of the things that I would like to bring out about our approach to the Willows, I won't call it development, I would call it more restoration, is that we want to take a very naturalistic, sensitive, environmental approach to this. And you'll see from our presentation that that's what we've achieved. So the key elements of our plan include, first, the construction and operation of a luxury boutique hotel of approximately 60 rooms with dining, catering, spa, and world-class facilities. Secondly, the renovation to pristine condition, the mansion and the gardens, preserving them to their original splendor. Third, the renovation to the carriage house for a use that is complementary to the mansion and the uses, public uses of the park itself. Collaboration with Radnor Township for ongoing improvements of the Willows grounds and gardens, an acquisition or long-term lease for the necessary lands, only the necessary lands, to procure the land and the mansion and the development of our project. David will walk you through the imagery of the mansion.
Thank you, Victor, and good evening, everyone. Our firm is DAS, as Victor said, and we're specialists in hospitality design. And in particular, we're specialists in boutique hotels and sort of the unique destination environments that people like to seek today, as opposed to the roadside motel. One of the things we noticed when we went to the mansion this summer is that it's really in original condition. I mean, it's sort of spectacular that through all these years it hasn't been screwed up, so to speak. And it's been protected, and that's really thanks to you all that happened, I assume. It's, you know, the only things we're aware of that have been really changed from its original days in 1911 is the roof. The roof tiles are now asphalt shingle instead of terracotta tile, and I think there's a porch structure that's been modified to some degree, but everything else is really original. So our proposal is really based on historically renovating the mansion in a way that makes sense, but without doing invasive renovations. And you know, the mansion has various rooms that are based on a residential scale as an estate and aren't necessarily suitable to large events. So rather than seeing sort of invasive renovations, we would like to see it saved and represent, you know, its luster from its days in 1911 as much as possible, and avoid sort of a heavy-handed renovation. The conservatory maybe could be slightly improved with that looks like a later addition, but all things considered, we don't want to tax that structure with what would be huge parties, parking, and other sorts of problems that go along with a commercial catering operation. So our strategic plan here is to create a boutique hotel on the property that would be near the parking lot area, which is already cleared, and in a scale that would be appropriate to the park and not, frankly, overwhelm it, but be in similar scale to to the mansion and some of the other estates that are in the area. and that boutique hotel is kind of an economic engine for this project, so that the mansion can stay largely as it exists, and be used for events, but smaller events, so that the boutique hotel with its 60 rooms and a banquet facility and a small restaurant for guests and local patrons will really become the engine for this project to make economic sense. And that's kind of that's really our notion. And what I'd like to do is walk you through some of the imagery we've put together for these three areas: the mansion first, the hotel second, and then outdoor spaces, because the outdoor spaces are really what the park is all about, and I think give it its beautiful character. In this slide, you can see in the middle there's a picture that represents the mansion in its current day. It's a neoclassical type structure, very stately, very conservative. The upper left is I think, an existing picture or a recent picture of the rear of the mansion looking up the hill. The other images represent the kind of quality and level of improvement that we're proposing. The upper right is another mansion, not the same but similar, but I want you to kind of look at the flowers and the gardens and the things we want to do to embellish the areas around the mansion, not change the pastoral setting, but just the areas that are impacted by the mansion. We see there could be some walking paths, some small meditation areas, and et cetera. The bottom left is one of our projects called the Pluckerman Inn up in historic village of Pluckerman, New Jersey, which is new construction but built to look like it's always been there, and frankly to fit into an historic village where we were able to hide a lot of the technology and services. So it's those kinds of things and that kind of quality that we see bringing to this project to make it a really destination place for everybody, but certainly of a very high quality. These are some interior inspirational pictures for the mansion. It's hard to see in this light, but the middle picture is the railing that exists, which is original, as we understand it. And the other pictures here to the left are sort of, we'd like to take the details that exist in the mansion and bring them back to their original condition and the luster that was once there, and make it sort of grand the way it was in 1911 in that era. Upper right, there's a picture of one of our projects, Lebec Finn, and that's just a sort of a detail shot of the kind of, not that we would do that, but at the kind of quality that we'd be seeking. And the lower right is one of the ballrooms at Harry Savoy that's in Wilmington that we did. The hotel concept is, we wanted to make sure the mansion would be the anchor for the property, and we wouldn't want to build anything close to it. So we're proposing that cleared area where the site is currently a parking lot with 60 spaces. And that's where we would build the hotel, plus or minus 3 stories. But it would be complementary to the mansion without copying it. And it would be sit into that little hillside so we could bury some of the services. These are slides that represent the kind of place that we're envisioning. It's a very welcoming place, very high quality, has a kind of a European feel, which is the kind of feel when I'm on the property. I feel almost like I'm in Europe because of the rolling hills and sort of majestic beauty of the site. Porte cochere, welcoming environments, things that I think make this very memorable. The bottom left is a project we did called Grounds for Sculpture with Seward Johnson outside of Princeton, which was created as a place. It's a 27-acre sculpture park, which is kind of another destination but very special place to visit. Next. In the interior of the hotel would be, again, high quality. There would be a small restaurant. There would be a banquet facility that would represent the sort of festive atmosphere, the elegant atmosphere that would have been, part of the heyday of the Willows Mansion itself. Coca-Cola's in the upper right, one of our projects. Wolfgang Steakhouse in New York, one of our projects in the bottom. But just to kind of point out, this is sort of a level of quality that we'd be seeking in doing the hotel project. And the guest rooms, of course, would be, luxurious. They wouldn't be large, but they'd be luxurious, and there'd be a spa. And it would be all the things you'd expect in going to a destination boutique hotel. And it doesn't really exist in this area. I think there's quite a few flagged hotels in Montgomery County, et cetera, but they tend to be about 3 times larger than this. So this is a smaller scale, intimate destination project. And just to close on this, you know, the outdoor spaces are of course important, and we, you know, the 2 small areas that we're really focusing on is the mansion, the new hotel, and a proposed use for the cottage. But the rest of it would all remain. So we're really limiting our touch on the property to those areas. But around those buildings, we would want to do some upgrade to the landscaping, some English gardens, some herb gardens, things that would really be part of the cooking, part of the atmosphere of people that would stay here. So maybe some pavilions and things like that as part of the walking paths.
Thank you, David. So I'm sure that the vision that our team has was clearly delivered. This is a site plan of the property, and as you can see, the disturbance of any of the property is limited merely to the area where the parking lot is. Currently, there is about, I would say, 3/4 of an acre of cleared land. That means that we would not disturb nor remove any of the existing woodlands. The creek or the pond, the trail system would remain, and our site planning would be sensitive to any of the environmental conditions there. The loop road would remain, et cetera. The carriage house would become a use that is accommodating to the public space there, et cetera. And the mansion would be the premier structure, still open to the community for events, et cetera. And then the boutique hotel being, as David said, the engine, the financial engine to drive our project. What are the benefits of our proposal? First, our proposal will provide an immediate financial relief to Radnor Township. Secondly, it elevates the Willows to its highest and best use through the preservation and improvement of the mansion. Third, it adaptively reuses the property for this luxury boutique hotel. Next, it will employ people, pay taxes, and create a second economic benefit to the township. Next, and I want to be specific here, that we will commit $1.3 million for the purchase of the mansion and the immediate site that we need for the boutique hotel. $1.3 million. We will provide an estimated annual tax advantage of approximately $500,000 a year to Radnor Township. Next, we will commit approximately $25 million for the development of our project. Why select our project? We feel first, because it is financially the most attractive to Radnor Township. Next, it is beneficial to the school district by taxes without any additional burden of students. It is a much-needed use for the township and for the region. We've heard that. And it is consistent with the original concept of the Willows: preservation of the landscape, preservation of environmentally sensitive areas, highlighting the mansion. We feel also our proposal is financially sustainable for the future. The economic engine of the boutique hotel will provide the needed revenue to keep the project going. It is established by a team of experts with many years of experience, and our team is financially capable to deliver as planned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiPaolo. Why does your proposal include the purchase of the mansion? Is the utilization of the mansion a necessary service delivery component of your hotel vision?
I think it is, yes. And when we've had our discussions, our roundtable discussions about the concept, it was our feeling that the purchase of the mansion gave us better control of the site It gave us better ability to keep our project to the standard that we feel it will need, and it adds a symbiosis of the hotel and the mansion as well, while still allowing the mansion to be available to township and community events as long as they're programmed appropriately with the interaction of the hotel, et cetera.
Thank you. Other questions?
Yes, on your boutique hotel, I just noticed you're looking at it also as a meeting facility?
Yes.
With a capacity of 300.
Well, we say 300 because it might be 200 to 300. You know, a large wedding now is
Sure.
200,
I guess what
300
I'm
max.
looking at, you know, a facility, a meeting facility, if you have it planned for 300 people, pretty close, you're going to be bringing 300 cars in there. Does your site plan accommodate for no increased parking or taking away some of that space that we have at the Willows there to accommodate 300 cars?
We would not take away, I don't think that the area around the mansion is conducive to parking, first of all. Secondly, the area that we have, we may need to expand the area somewhat to get the number of parking spaces required, but we would be also perhaps backing that number in to the site as well as the size of the building itself. Yeah.
If I could just add to that, we did look at your ordinance relative to parking, and we did some, very preliminary numbers, and it looked like we were going to need about 200 spaces between the hotel rooms and the banquet based on your formulas, which are fairly standard in what we see in various townships. So there are 60 spaces that exist, I believe, on the existing parking lot. There are, I'm not sure how many spaces by the mansion, but we would not change those. We'd like to keep that as residential as possible. So we would need to add spaces. And we haven't done plans to, to sort of study this, but we think there could be spaces added around where the hotel would go. We might even consider doing some parking under the structure, bury them in a basement level. And we could also consider some parking along the drive if we need to. And it might be what we've done at other places like the Grounds for Sculptures, we'll do reinforced grass areas for, the days you need some additional parking, like a Saturday event, when you might need you might need to do parking. But we would also do valet parking as part of the project. So people that would arrive for the mansion, for example, would probably be valeted, so we can condense our parking requirements as well.
And just following up on my colleague's question there, excuse me, Mike mentioned that the mansion, the use of the mansion by township residents and the public would be contingent upon availability from your operation, namely the boutique. If the boutique hotel required the use of the mansion, it would preclude township use of that, or, those things have to be really worked out, that you don't want to leave it.
Yeah, I wouldn't preclude that. I mean, obviously, we would work with the township to make sure that the availability of the mansion is open to the community and those functions that they want to have there. And actually, having both facilities will make that even more readily possible. Having one spot versus the other certainly would give us more options in availability to the community, even availability at the hotel site as well.
Doing my due diligence, in essence, since the ownership deeding of the mansion goes over to your corporation, ultimately you will control that.
That's the intention. But I'm sure that can be worked out legally with smarter brains than me.
If I could add one more thing. This reminds me a little bit of a project we did locally called the Phoenixville Foundry, where we found a way to keep restore the foundry based on an historic tax credit when we did the project. And I think that project as well is sort of a quasi use where there's private weddings, there's fundraising events, charity events, all kinds of community-based events where the owner-developer actually works well with local community groups to kind of make it available. But, that's got to be kind of that would need to be discussed in terms of how those details would work. But I also wanted to mention that this property, the mansion, I think is ideal, is an ideal candidate for an historic tax credit renovation. And because that exists and because you would need to have ownership to do that, our owners would have to have ownership to get that tax credit. But that would mean we would comply with all the guidelines of the Department of Interior for the renovation, which would save the building, basically.
Regarding the carriage house, I have a note here that you said you were going to renovate the carriage house. And then what happens to that afterwards? You had said you just want to purchase the mansion and the space for the hotel. So what happens with the carriage house, or what are your thoughts with that?
Right now, our feeling is that the carriage house would remain part of the park, and we would not have ownership of the carriage house.
Okay.
But it could be a complementary use. We've seen as a cafe or snack bar or meeting area, et cetera. I mean, it's obviously an integral part of the park, and we think that we would want to work with the township to figure out the highest and best use of that, but we are not looking for ownership of the carriage house.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Could you provide a little detail on the, I think you, in one of your slides, mentioned a $500,000 per year tax advantage for Radnor Township. Can you give us a little more detail on that, please?
Yeah, those figures were based on the assessed value of the new hotel and what it would generate for property taxes, school taxes, property taxes, and then I think there was a mercantile tax that was already on there. That's how they were figured by an outside consultant.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. I know in your slot in your presentation, you anticipate securing funding in mid to late 2013. Have you had any, I guess, initial efforts with that? Or?
Yes. Our partners are willing and able to put up 50% of their own money to do this project, and they have various banks that they have already approached who will be able to finance the remainder.
And then also, I guess, sort of, how would you respond to, I guess, sort of a member of the public who says, okay, you're going to build this fancy boutique hotel here. How does that not clash with the guy who wants to take his kid fishing? I guess, sort of, how would you respond to a question?
The park will be open. There'll be no restrictions for the family that wants to use the facility, none at all. As a matter of fact, you know, the loop road is a clear delineator, if you will, of the lands there. And I think that the boutique hotel, not being, let's say, residents or owners, are transient themselves, so that, in my opinion, the community would have full range, full run of the community park. And as a matter of fact, from our involvement, it will ensure that the upkeep of the grounds will be of the utmost quality.
And then my last question is, I just want to make sure your group would be doing the management of the mansion once it has been renovated.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Yes. This is to be an owner-operated facility.
I just have one question, if I may. Do you have a sense of the feasibility of demand for a boutique hotel in this location? Are you confident that that is an economically viable property for the purposes that you've described?
Yeah, our initial research does indicate that, and I think that's one of the reasons that the partners feel so confident in submitting this proposal and committing the amount of money that they are committing publicly.
How many acres are you looking to acquire between the mansion and the hotel site?
We did a quick analysis of that, and I think it came out to about 4 acres. Just the perimeter of the building, you know, and the area where the existing parking lot is, as I said, is about 3/4 of an acre to an acre right there. And without, you know, expanding on the parking, it wouldn't be a large amount. and the remainder of the park would remain open. So it would be not 80%, but perhaps 90% open.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DiPaolo. It's
Oh, you're
certainly a
welcome.
very bold proposal, and we appreciate your
Thank
bringing
you.
it to us.
I appreciate that.
Next up is Jeffrey Miller Catering and the Lake House Inn.
Hello, my name is Glenn Stevens. My wife Kate and I are the owners of the Lake House Inn. We renovated that property 6 years ago. It was a very similar situation to the Willows in that it was a dilapidated property that needed some work. We spent 2 years constructing it. We're now in our 6th year of operation. We're very successful. We have a minimal impact to the community, and we've partnered with Jeffrey Miller for the last 6 years. We'd like to continue that partnership at the Willows. Again, we've had the identical experience at the Lake House. Jeffrey Miller is the area's largest wedding caterer. We need to expand the event space at the Willow. One of the major problems there is that there's not one large room to hold an event. So further along in the presentation, I'll explain how we intend to do that. We intend to preserve the property 100%, the property and its current uses 100%. We have partnered with the Wayne Arts Center to use part of the mansion to display art, to use the mansion for classes, and we'll go into that a little more later. The farm-to-table experience, we think, is something that people really appreciate in the catering business. It's certainly something that is conducive to the Willows site. The community garden that is there is an incredible community asset, and we'd like to continue that and then expand on it further with our fruit trees and a larger garden and possibly hiring a professional gardener. We'd like to eliminate the operating losses to the township, which is, I'm sure, your goal as well. And we've come up with an adaptive reuse of the cottage. Current conditions is the problem with the Willows. The reason it hasn't been more successful is that the space is a little unsuitable for larger events. The decor is dated. It's become uncompetitive in today's marketplace. It's a financial drain on the community. Our solution is to expand the atrium that exists, that was added well after the building was originally built. And that would provide the single space for events, single large space for events. We intend to refurbish the mansion interior. We intend to enhance the community uses through our partnership with the Wayne Arts Center, through continued use of the community groups that use the grounds today, and through a partnership with the Radnor Conservancy. Again, the farm to table, we are going to reduce or eliminate township expenses, and we're going to guarantee you revenue. We have venue management and marketing expertise. We took the Lake House from 0 to 60 events almost overnight. And we intend to preserve the historic nature of the property. The Lake House Inn is also over 100 years old. We were awarded an AIA award for excellence in design and architecture. We intend to do the same with the mansion's property. This is our site plan, and as you can see, this is the first time I'm seeing it, actually, so I apologize. But I believe what we're looking at is Skunk Hollow to the lower right with the community garden. The colored spaces are the additional gardens that we intend to develop to augment the community garden. We are going to hire a full-time gardener to cultivate that space. But other than that, the only other change is the expansion. The blue arrows at the top are the site for the expanded solarium site. We intend to improve the functionality of the space with higher ceilings, with full HVAC, glass windows to take advantage of the panoramic views from the site. Of course, enhance the interior decor, and maybe most importantly, soundproof the space. We've had experience at the lake house. We have neighbors within 100 yards of our property, and we have successfully soundproofed our ballroom to the point where they don't even know an event is happening when it's going on. And I think that's something that, you know, the township really needs to consider moving forward, is that you can't have 40 or 50 or 60 weddings a year with sound emanating from the space. People are not going to be happy. So our solution completely soundproofs the event space. And to accentuate that point, the solarium versus the tent, loud music equals unhappy neighbors. The other advantage of having a permanent structure is the year-round community use. With a tent, it's 3 seasons. It's rarely comfortable. With an enlarged solarium, we would have year-round community use with HVAC, real walls to hang art on, a real space to have a larger meeting, township meeting. And we intend to invest our own money to do this. So our investment shows our commitment to this project. With regard to the mansion, we intend to, and the ballroom, we intend to add additional bathrooms. They would be ADA compliant. There would be new furnishings, lighting, and artwork. Farm to table seems to be a very popular topic today. We agree. We are going to plant fruit trees, herbs, vegetables. We're going to serve the produce that's grown on site. We can use that space for ceremonies. It's a very intimate space. We're going to hire a professional garden, and we're going to expand the community garden, but in no way impede on the existing community garden. As a matter of fact, our gardener could have seminars. He could provide seminars to the community. He could assist the community in maintaining their space. Wayne Arts Center, I think Nancy or?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Campbell. I'm the director of the Wayne Arts Center. And this year I'll be celebrating my 25th year. So I've seen the Art Center make a lot of changes from when I started in 1987. For many of you that do not know some history about the Wayne Arts Center, we were founded in 1930, and this year we'll be celebrating our 82nd year. The Wayne Arts Center provides instruction in all phases of the visual and performing arts, special events, outreach, educational programs, and a gathering place for artists and community members to dialogue about the cultural climate. Nearly 6,000 visitors come through the Wayne Arts Center in terms of signing up for classes, and we offer about 500 classes annually. We have over 100 teachers that teach at the Arts Center and come from the area's most prestigious art schools. The Wayne Arts Center is an active and important cultural resource for our community and welcomes close to 20,000 visitors a year. In terms of exhibitions, we are now presenting over 20 exhibitions annually, and several of our shows are international in character, and we bring in artists from all over the country that come to Radnor Township and frequent area hotels and shops and local businesses. The Wayne Arts Center is committed to developing strong community collaborations and has worked closely with Radnor Township over the years. The Wayne Arts Center enjoys a very positive working relationship with Radnor Township and Radnor School District, and recently united with Parks and Rec this summer in the presentation of Shakespeare in the Park, and also in their Harvest Festival this fall. Due to an unmet demand or an increasing demand for programming, Wayne Arts Center is finding itself, believe it or not, running short on space after 5 years since its expansion, which we completed in the year 2007. We have many programs that we're not able to find space for, especially in the performing arts, and we find that the Willows is an ideal property for conducting those programs. We have visualized many programs that we would like to offer at the Willows, and some of these would be developing artist in residency programs, developing art history and art appreciation programs, special art workshops, environmental art programs, digital computer classes, expanded art and music programs for children, musical performances, of which we just held one 2 Sundays ago at the Wayne Arts Center, and it was really well attended and very, very much enjoyed. We also would plan literary arts programs, theatrical performances, and we'd like to also undertake a sculpture project that I have been in discussion with the township for probably the last 5 years, is to turn the Willows property into a rotating sculpture park. We would also like to be able to use the Willows Cottage for sculpture classes, of which we have not been able to accommodate our students very effectively. So these are some of the ideas that we have, and we think we could bring a lot of positive energy to the Willows and continue to work with the various community organizations such as the Radnor Conservancy, Radnor Township, the Historical Society, any of the other nonprofit organizations in Radnor Township. Thank you.
Let me just say that Jeffrey Miller Catering and the Wayne Arts Center have an exclusive agreement now where they're working together for different types of events. They have a very healthy, constructive relationship. And again, just as I have a healthy and constructive relationship with Jeff, they want to continue that at the Willows. I think our proposal provides improved community resource for township meetings and conferences with the improved mansion space, the updated mansion space, and the larger solarium. It would provide greater access and capabilities for township meetings. Our operations basically are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We don't need the space Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or Thursday. So that's where we see the continued community use. We will have a site manager who would supervise any meeting that occurred, but we don't envision any charge to the township for meetings. We don't see any limitations on the meetings on days when we're not booked for an event, and we know 6 months in advance when we're going to be booked. So we are completely leaving the doors to the Willows open to the community, you know, on the days when we don't have weddings, which if we have weddings 60 days a year, there's 300 days a year where the space is available to the township. Of course, scouting events, I'm a scout, school formals, fishing, walking, gardening. Our initial proposal was a little vague on our use for the cottage, but since that submission, we've had discussions with different groups such as the Wayne Arts Center and the Radnor Conservancy who have expressed interest in that space. We've agreed to do minor renovations as necessary and to help out with the ongoing utility costs at the cottage so that these groups could use the space as part of our proposal. We also, as I mentioned earlier, intend to hire a professional farmer to manage the gardens. That would be an ideal place for an apartment for that farmer. It's also a nice space for farm-to-table dinners or smaller events, farm equipment storage, and as Nancy mentioned in her presentation, a sculpture studio for her students. We've proposed two options, sale and a lease. The sale option, we're offering $1 million for the mansion and the cottage. We acknowledge that is below market for other properties in the area, but as I mentioned, we intend to fully leave the doors open to the community. It would mean that Radnor Township would be relieved of any financial expense as far as capital expense, repairs, ongoing maintenance to those two properties. The other option is a lease option where the township would retain ownership. We would guarantee revenue to the township each year based on a based rent and any proceeds. We'd come up with a formula where we would pay you based on how many events we did each year. But the lease option would mean there would be some continuing ownership obligations to the township. Too far. We pulled these off of, I think, the RFP. Above our projections, we intend to guarantee $75,000 a year to the township. And then in 2016, 2017, those are projections of income based on the number of events that are held at the mansion. Below are the current projections that the township sees moving forward with the property. So you can see, you take the positive and double the negative, and you know you're in a much better spot financially. Marketing and management, we are experts. The Lake House Inn and Jeffrey Miller Catering assume all operational duties. Facility under either scenario. Facility management and maintenance would be our responsibility. Jeffrey Miller hosts 300 weddings a year in his operation. He is fully capable of absorbing another 50 or 60 at the Willows. We handle all the accounting aspects of the business, and marketing is really where our expertise comes in. Jeff owns a website called partyspace.com, which is a resource for any wedding in the Delaware Valley. He has 200 venues on that website. 42% of brides in the area visit that website before they choose a venue. And some of the places that are represented are the Willows, Appleford, Bolingbrook, and the Radnor Hotel, and may I add, the Lake House Inn. Our proposal is the preservation option here. We intend to preserve the open space as is, with the exception of the expanded solarium. We don't intend to make any changes other than the solarium and the community garden expansion. And your other option is to sell off the land. Sorry, Mr. Holloway, but that's an option for you too. I mean, obviously, yes. Exchange. Thank you. Our team is the Lake House Inn, the Wayne Arts Center, and Jeffrey Miller Catering. It's a strong partnership. We have years that we've built up this wonderful relationship, and we'd like to continue it at the Willows. I've been in business my entire life. We did a major renovation at the Lake House, as I mentioned earlier. It was a 2-year project. It was a $4 million renovation. We've been very successful over the last 6 years. The Wayne Arts Center, I think Nancy covered a lot of that. It's a great asset to the community, and it would be a great asset at the Willows as well. And Jeffrey Miller Catering. Jeff, you want to come up and say a few words?
Thank you for having us. as Glenn said, we've been in business for a while. I started in college doing brunch and bed in the dormitories. That was 1982. Since then, we've built the company up substantially. We now do about $6 million a year in sales. We've got 40 full-time staff. We've got 9 exclusive venues. And if I can figure out how to work this thing, let's see. Those are some of our venues that we're the exclusive caterer, and so we manage and operate these venues for catering. The Racket Club, Lake House Inn, Wayne Art Center, Waynesboro, a whole bunch of places, Tyler, Audubon. So we do quite a bit of catering, and we know weddings. Glenn, you want to?
So in conclusion, we intend to preserve the parkland 100%. We intend to preserve and enhance the community uses, upgrade the mansion itself, add the Arts Center services to the property, add sustainable agriculture in addition to the existing community garden, provide offices for the Radnor Conservancy and the cottage. We have a very experienced operations team. We know exactly what we're doing. We've done it before. We can easily do it again. And we're guaranteeing revenue to the township. And we would love to work with you, and if you have any questions, we'd certainly love to answer any questions that you have at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Questions?
Yeah. How much land are you proposing in the $1 million or whatever to purchase?
As little as possible.
There you go. Are you just talking around?
We need some maybe immediate grounds around the mansion itself for gardens.
Thank you.
And then we would need easements to the parking, right-of-ways for the parking lot, but we wouldn't necessarily need to own that ground. And then the same for the cottage, just the building and some immediate grounds around the cottage itself.
And then the farm-to-table, putting in those gardens in that farm, where are you using that food that's harvested there? I didn't really understand what you were going to do with that.
Well, we're going to use some of it at the Willows. Hopefully we'll...
So whoever has a wedding there or whatever, it'll be...
Yeah, whatever's in
Okay.
season. I mean, you know, it's all seasonal. So, you know, there'll be herbs, there'll be things that can be dried, but there'll be other things that are available fresh, and we'll make that part of the menu options. Whatever we don't use, Jeff has a relationship with Phil Abundance. He's got other locations that he could use the vegetables and herbs at. So they won't go to waste.
Thanks.
Under your proposal, you mentioned the option between lease and sale. You said under lease, there would be some maintenance cost be expected to be borne by the township. Do you have a percentage of that?
No, I don't have a scientific breakdown, but my experience in financing and leasing properties is that there's a landlord and he's responsible for keeping the water out of the building and
Okay,
you
so
know,
that
providing
arrangement.
utilities to the building, and then we would be responsible for everything else.
Now,
Whereas-
you're willing to make a capital outlay to put a new atrium in there, a fixed atrium?
Oh, yeah.
What other items are you willing to,
Well, we
invest in
intend to
at
leave
this
the
point?
mansion pretty much, as it is structurally, and just,
Okay.
enhance it, painting, any code upgrades that need to be done. And then the atrium would be an entirely new structure.
Okay.
It would be,
So you would be willing to make enhancements to meet code compliance and ADA?
Yes,
And that
yeah.
would be borne by your
absolutely.
partnership?
Yes.
And when you mentioned the community could basically use it for those open, Monday through Thursday, I think, at no charge, but I would expect, would you factor in operational costs for township groups to use it, like the local scout group? Would you see them having an operational charge, or would it be open for
Yeah,
them?
there'll be a supervisor there, so I assume they're gonna have to cover the cost of the supervisor being there. But we would bear the cost of utilities and water and things like that for those groups.
In your proposal, you have a revenue sharing in the lease proposal only? Is there a
Yes.
reason why you have it only in that, not in the purchase?
Well, with the purchase option, we'd be laying out the purchase money and the additional cost for to build the solarium and.
You're going to have that either way.
You could, but I also, under the purchase option, I'd assume we'd be paying property taxes, so, yeah. So that would cover that, you know, instead of having that, both expenses, we would pay property taxes in lieu of revenue sharing.
Mr. Stevens, one thing I didn't understand, pardon me, is in the site plan that you have next to you, you have the 3 blue triangles, which I think represented the atrium. Are you suggesting that there are 3 expansions, or those are the 3 options for where you would have the atrium expansion?
Pointing out, it's just directional, just to show where it was.
Or is it gonna, it's gonna wrap all the way around the building?
No, it's just a square rectangular piece of.
Just going out where the existing smaller inadequate one is?
I don't know what this, I'm not sure what that is.
The arrows are just showing where, I don't actually know.
Yeah, and it would just be an expansion of the existing solarium, yeah.
How much larger? Double, triple the size?
I'm not sure the exact size of the existing solarium. I would guess that we'd be looking for about 4,000 square feet for the event space, 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. So if that is 1,500 or
Right.
2,000,
Up to 3,000 or 4,000.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank
I
you.
just have- I have one
Yes,
more-
sorry.
I'm sorry, I have one question, actually, two. With the, I know you mentioned that under the purchase option, you would not be purchasing the land that would become the gardens and the orchard.
Mhm.
But in either way, would there be restrictions on the public's access to those? I mean, you're putting in a lot, I mean, it looks like an expensive upgrade to the current property right now. Would there be restrictions on the public's access to those?
I think there'd be restrictions to harvesting the fruit and vegetables, but certainly they could use it to walk through and, you know, I guess I haven't really thought that through. I mean, but I assume you can't just cultivate a garden and leave it wide open. There is the community garden directly
Yeah.
adjacent to that. I'm sure they have rules with regards to access as well. I assume ours would be similar.
What have you budgeted for the expansion of the solarium and for the improvements and the renovations?
1.5 million.
So if you were to purchase property, your investment would be 2.5 million?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you.
We have on our agenda a 5-minute break. Would we want to do that, or we're running a little behind? Can we just push on? Any preference? Okay, why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll reconvene at 7:15. Thank you.
case you miss your kids too much.
We're going to get started.
All right.
I know, but now we finally have it.
Yes, ma'am. That's fine, I just want to make sure that get that. Yeah. 15 minutes is an impossible time. Yeah, they all do. I am fair as they come. The integrity of the process. You're right, it's the Fitzpatrick rules of integrity. Next up is we'd like to get started, and our next presenter is Klein Studios.
Hello, everybody. I am Christine Klein, and my husband and I, my husband John, who's sitting right here in the front with our boys Max and Porter, we are Klein Studios. Klein Studios is a partnership owned by John and I. We both are teachers. Oh, first I better make sure I know how to use this. Oh, it looks pretty easy. Just a little bit about us. I have my bachelor's degree from Immaculata, music with a piano concentration, and I have a master's in music education from Boston University. My husband John graduated from the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. I have been teaching music at the Country Day School of the Sacred Heart for 21 years, and my husband has been teaching there for 13, teaching art. We started kind of inventing extracurricular arts programs 15 years ago when we started a camp at Sacred Heart. And we started with 4 kids. I remember their names because they were only 4. And we thought, we'll build this. We'll just stick with it. We know how to do it. We'll just provide the arts, and then kids will hear about it. They'll know that it's fun. They'll know that they're learning. By the time we turned the camp over, we had over 100 children every summer. And we did that with very little advertising, really just working through Sacred Heart. So we're used to starting programs from nothing and with nothing and involving other people to try to grow those programs in the arts. Oh, also, we just opened a location in Manayunk. We are using one of the school buildings that unfortunately is now empty. It's the school building at Holy Family Parish. Sadly, the school closed, and we were able to move into the building on the first floor and breathe some new life into it. And kids come back who went to school there, and they walk into the dance studio and they say, "This was my classroom." And it's really a very special experience. We just opened, we're just building it, but it's been wonderful. Our plan is that we would initiate programs in 3 different stages. Stage 1 would include our Cultural Explorers program, which is the program we're currently running in Manayunk and that we have run at the Country Day School of the Sacred Heart after school for years. It involves children ages 4 to 11, art, music, dance, and drama, only on weekdays, after school, and evenings. Children can sign up for 1 class, they can sign up for all 4, and of course they're given discounted rates if they want to do all the classes. Now, this program with the dance would probably only work if we were using downstairs areas, because I think the rooms upstairs are a little small for that. But again, it would only be during the week, and we are very used to moving into spaces, creating classes, and moving out and having it look like we've never been there. We have been doing that for most of our educational experiences. And at Sacred Heart, before they built the beautiful Performing Arts Center that we have now, I shared my space for years. So in the mansion, in the beautiful mansion, being very careful with 4 and 5-year-olds to not disrupt anything, and it is possible. We know the tricks. We would also initiate these programs that you see, Connections, Future Virtuosos, and Pint-Sized Picassos. Now, these programs we developed for caregivers and children together. They will be daytime programs, again, during the week only. Everything that we do will be during the week. So I just wanted to say that, and I'll follow up later with that. Connections is a program that we developed for babies 6 months old to age 2. And we started this program when my older son, Max, was born, and I was going to classes, and I was hearing moms say, I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to sing to my child. I'm here because I feel strange doing this. I thought, that's such an easy thing to teach. I could teach any of you how to sing. We could do it right now in 2 minutes. Anyone can do it. And that's when we started developing this program. Connections teaches caregivers how to sing to their babies, how to be comfortable with that. What music is out there? How do you access it? How do you move to this music? How do you look at artwork? Yes, babies can look at artwork. They can notice elements of it. These are actually pre-critical thinking and pre-reading skills. They're developed when you talk to a baby and look at a piece of artwork and say, look at this tree. So as you can see, we're advocates of this, and we would love to make this part of what we're doing. Now, Future Virtuosos is preschoolers. And what we do is we teach everyone the violin. We provide violins. We don't use a method other than learning coordination and how to read music. We really believe in learning rules and then breaking them. We want them to explore, but we also really want them to have the bass. So everybody plays the violin, everybody sings, and in turn, we take a humanities-based approach. We bring in, how are we going to connect this to the arts? What kind of questions can you ask? Because critical pedagogy and asking questions is what we're all about, and all of our teachers as well. Now, Pint-Sized Picassos, of course, is exploring different materials, textures, artistic time periods. Now, do we sit down with these little children and make them copy artwork? No. We want them to explore. We want them to ask questions. We want them to develop these skills. And then, of course, private lessons. I would love to bring in as many teachers as we can to offer private lessons. Now, right now, we both offer private lessons, and we have many teachers who work for us that offer private lessons. We can absolutely bring students to a competitive performance level if that's their desire, but that actually, we found, is not the desire of most of our students. Most of our students really want to enhance their life. They want to enhance their academics. Everyone has different reasons for learning the arts, and we like to acknowledge that and support it. And of course, have fun. Everybody has to have fun. We make sure of it. Now, after this is established, stage 2 would be, we would like to start adult classes. And this is my favorite, a children's theater. Now, we've done this in other places. We've done productions. Our children's theater productions are completely run by the kids. They do the backstage work. They do the acting. They really learn organizational skills, communication skills. It's wonderful. And we found that when we give the children a voice in what they're creating, they always come up with something that we're not expecting. It's usually more wonderful than what we planned. The children's theater would be free to all children. And we would, of course, charge for the performance if people wanted to come see it. But we really would like to start a children's theater that's a true community event and that really anyone can be involved in. Now, In my 21 years at Sacred Heart, I have been teaching pre-K through 8th grade, and I run all of the choirs. And we have sung at Carnegie Hall. We've gone to the Academy of Music. We've gone to the Kimmel Center. We've, recorded. We've done all of this with a completely non-auditioned choir. In 21 years, we've never held an audition for any of our choirs because we believe if kids want to do this and they have the desire, then we can teach them how. And we would have the same approach with the children's theater. Now, of course, if we get hundreds, we'll have to get creative, but that's okay, that's what we do. And then, of course, community groups would be other artistic groups from the area that are looking for a home or that are just looking for a space. We are really interested in working with other groups in the community. We believe everyone can enhance each other. We believe we can all learn from each other. And I think there's a lot of exciting events that could happen as a result of collaboration. And the third stage is we would like to initiate language programs and workshops for children and adults and community events and partnerships. Now, what we really see happening is events like fashion shows, because now Wayne is the fashion capital of the main line, right? They just said that in one of the magazines that was out recently because of our fabulous shops. Well, we should have fashion shows. We should have home shows. We could have restaurant and catering shows, anything to bring attention to all of the businesses in Radnor Township, because we know we have many wonderful businesses in Radnor Township. Now, here are the financial projections. Now, this is just the beginning. This is our first goal. Our first goal would be to get 100 private students in there per week. We don't think that's going to be a problem right from the beginning. With no advertising, we have an overflow of private students just between the two of us that we cannot accommodate, and many teachers who are willing and interested, teachers who don't have a studio space but have a following of 20 students. I really think that that would be fairly immediate. And 50 students participating in the classes. We would hope to build this very quickly. And then from there, it would just get higher. Now, I know that we cannot offer you millions of dollars, but we do see that we can bring revenue to the township. It would cost nothing for the township, and we would continue to grow in every way that we could to increase those profits. And we would make sure that there are many, many people visiting the Willows every week and walking into that beautiful mansion every day. Radnor, we think, or would offer, of course, we would absolutely negotiate, but our original proposal stated we would give 20% of all of our proceeds to the township. And we would also, of course, be willing to implement programs on a trial basis. See if this works. I know it's unusual. I know the thought of this is different than what has been done there before, but that's perfect because there's so many possibilities. We can try it, we can adapt. We are absolutely willing to do that. Now, we were thinking, of course, one option would be to use the whole building. For us, that's not the most ideal. We would really like to have a partnership. We can confine what we're doing to the second and third floor. I went in for a walkthrough. I'd never been in the caretaker apartment space before. When I saw that, I realized if somebody wanted to use that first floor, we could use the second and third, and then maybe combine, upon agreement for parlor concerts, concert series, which we're extremely interested in putting together. A partnership we think would work very, very well. Of course, we would be willing to use the whole building, like I said, and if that were the case, it would still be available for weddings and events. we were thinking in much the same way it was 18 years ago when we had our wedding reception at the Willows. We walked in, we had the tour. I know everybody's in separate rooms. Sometimes that's not a bad thing when you get everybody together. It was wonderful. And we had our own caterer. They were allowed to come in. It was wonderful. That can happen again. And then a year later, my sister-in-law had her wedding and reception there. So we would like to see that continue to happen. People can come in, maybe with their own caterer, or maybe there's already a caterer there who's running everything downstairs. We're upstairs. We make ourselves scarce on the weekends. I'm not sure how much you can hear. I think we would have to not be there on the weekends, or I would need to go upstairs and sing and have somebody downstairs and let me know if it's too loud, and then we could adjust from there. Now, in the meantime, I know that this process can take some time. I know. And if the township would like, we could go in on the second and third floor and start lessons, bring in instruments, and bring in revenue. And then if the time comes and you need to kick us out, we would do it. We would be sad, but we would agree, and we would absolutely leave with no fight. But we could begin these programs immediately. Now, I hope I told you everything. I had it all written down, but I just want to review in my mind and make sure. Let me ask my husband, because he's probably thinking, tell them this. Boys, did I forget anything? Okay. We're all here tonight because we run this as a family. And, families, of course, are the focus of what we do. I guess that's all. Do you have questions for me?
Christine, thank you. That was a very creative proposal. Questions?
I actually have a question. How many students do you currently have at your Manayunk program?
In our Manayunk program right now, we're very small. We only have 12 children, which I consider a huge success because we are completely new to that community. Here, we live in Radnor. John was born here, raised here. His dad, Rick, was a Radnor police officer for 30 years. We know people. It's easier. We put our name out there. They've heard of us. In Manayunk, we're new. We are inserting ourselves, but every couple of weeks, more kids come in. And I keep saying, 15 years ago, we started with 4, and it didn't take us very long. And we have other staff members. We have dance and drama there as well. And we will be starting a children's community theater in Manayunk this Christmas. They have a little stage downstairs that no one's using. So, and by the way, I almost forgot. The 3rd floor at the Willows, that cedar closet, it's a costume closet. I couldn't believe it. I walked in there and I said, it's a costume closet. It's perfect. It was built for that. Just add that.
This was your first year in Manayunk, though?
This is our first year. We just started at the last week in September in Manayunk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Well done.
Sure. Thank you, everyone.
We would love it. Very nicely done. Thank you. Next up is Open Air Affairs.
Hi, how are you? I'm Shannon from Open Air Affairs. Open Air Affairs is a collection of unique venues that we have. Most of them are tented sites. We've put tents on them to grow the sites. Our main one is Pearl S. Buck. We started there about 8 years ago. They had 2 weddings the year before that we started there. We put the tent up. When we put the tent up, we put a floor in. We put electric to the tent, water to the cook tent, and we put the tent up, and then we started marketing it. And last year, we had 52 weddings on the site. Our norm is between 35 and 45 each year. Last year, we had a good year. This year, I think we just completed our last. It was 48 this year. And we have different sites throughout Bucks County and some in Philadelphia. We do Smith Memorial Playground in Philadelphia. There's no tent there. That's strictly an indoor facility. What's different about us and the way that we do things is we're not a caterer, we're not a florist, we're not a DJ. You can bring any florist, DJ, caterer that you want to the site. That way the bride gets to create their own wedding. It's a little bit unique. It's not a cookie cutter factory type wedding. They can do their own thing there. We do this by partnering with the sites. With Pearl Buck, we partner with them. They get a site fee for each event, and we charge a facility fee, which is per person to the customer to keep the cost down. If you were to erect a tent each time, the cost would be astronomical. We cut that cost way down by leaving it up, having it set up, and then we can cut the cost down and the bride can get in there at a reasonable amount. The partnership with Radnor Township would extend the use of the existing use of what the property used to be. We also are Newtown Party Rental, and we've done a number of events there throughout the last 10 years with putting tents up, delivering chairs and tables to the site. So we know the site pretty well. The township with us would still have use not only of the property but of the tent. We let you, if you have an event that you need to use the tent, we give it to you free of charge. We're not out to make money off of the township. We market ourselves through our website and through publications. Every year we've got a pretty steady, phone call list and email list every day of brides looking for, the unique venue and not an indoor venue. After we market the site, we go in, we design, build the tent, we pick a place out. We usually, talk to the property owners and discuss where the tent wants to go. We don't come in and say this is where it has to be. We try to pick a place that's close to the house. We were looking at right out the back door to the right, down towards the driveway and where the trash receptacles are, down along that side, because it would be a little less invasive, wouldn't hide the manor from view when you come up the driveway or anything like that. It would be off to the side, but it's still, when you're in the tent, you would have a magnificent view down the hill. It would just be phenomenal. The inside, we would market for smaller weddings, which, everybody says it's too small, it's too small. Well, if you've ever been to Karenwood, I think all of the rooms are about the same size there, and Karenwood does a very large business of weddings, and we could probably have some smaller indoor year-round events going on there. The advantages to us, and I'm probably shorter and simpler and sweeter than everybody else, but we're simple. We're a simple company. It's a small company. I'm the owner. You deal with the owner. We have our salespeople. It's a small company. There's not a lot of people running around. And we would probably be the least invasive to the property. We're not trying to put a hotel up or anything like that. We're just to, come in and do our thing. And I can show you some pictures of what we've done. Uh-oh. They already went through? Oh, okay. All right, I'm lost there. Okay. And, the sites that we've done it on, they've all prospered. We have new sites this year. We just started with Graham Park, and it's with the State Historical Society, and we partnered with them last year to start that up, and we're just getting going there on that property. And that's about all I got. Any questions?
Shannon, you probably covered this. How many people would the tent hold?
Well, I would like to put a 40 by 100 up if we could, and you could get 200 to 250 in there, depending upon the size of the tent, which basically comes to it. If we were, if we could go larger, you could do 300, 350. I have one tent in Falls Township that can do 450 people. But I wasn't looking for that for this site. I thought it would just overkill the site. Somewhere around 200 to 250 and a 40 by 100 would be fine.
And is that placement where you were suggesting, is that flat enough for a tent, or would you see
we
some
would
grading?
level it.
You'd see some grading done?
We would bring stone in and level it. We like the asphalt, but if there's a problem with impervious surface, we do use a hard plastic flooring that we can put in that we don't have to do the impervious surface calculations on. But we do level it.
Other questions?
Yeah, so your plan is to basically build this tent.
Yes.
and to book the events?
Yes. Well, we not only book them, we manage them also. We have people on site during the event to open the site up. They're there the full time, make sure nothing's wrong, close the site down at the end of the night. We manage from start to finish.
And once the site is established and the word has gotten out, do you have any projections on what revenue that would bring to the township?
Well, that would depend upon your site fee. Pearl Buck's site fee is $3,000. I don't see any reason why there couldn't be something similar to that site fee. You know, if you're doing 40 to 50 weddings a year, you know, you're between 120 and 150,000 a year.
And do you have anything budgeted for renovations or improvements to the mansion itself?
No, we do not.
Thank you.
I guess with so your proposal, the smaller weddings you talked about marketing the mansion for, that would be basically as it's currently situated?
As it currently is, yes.
Okay.
If we saw something we needed to do, you know, we wouldn't ask the township to pay for it. We would ask them if we could do it. And if we wanted to paint a room or fix something up or redo a floor or whatever it is, we would take it upon ourselves to do that.
Would you be providing anything in terms of like security or I guess sort of, I mean, it's your tent that would be up there, obviously, so you have an interest in making sure that's
Yeah,
there.
no, you know what? I got my tents all over the place.
Okay.
I really do.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you very much.
yep, like I said, short and sweet.
Yes, it was. A perfect setting catering, please.
Present. Good evening. How you doing? My name is Jerry Deal. I am the co-owner of Perfect Setting Catering in Berwyn. This is Chris Cava. He is the co-owner of the Party Center in Phoenixville. Both of our companies have been creating events at the Willows for over 20 years. Our businesses, we are proud to say, are local to the area. Our proposal is a simple plan of operation for the Willows Mansion. We believe that the recurring budget deficits at the Willows property can be erased by reestablishing the Willows Mansion in the upper echelon of special event venues. Our plan is the benefit of preserving all existing open space to the benefit of the community. Our proposal further allows continued access by the township residents to the Willows Mansion for community activities while generating the revenues necessary to preserve and enhance this local landmark. To that end, we recommend that the township consider securing the services of Perfect Setting as the exclusive caterer and the Party Center of Phoenixville as the exclusive tent provider. This change would immediately benefit the township by cutting expenses and increasing revenues. Now, we all know in recent years the Willows has been unable to compete with the best venues in the western suburbs and has seen its revenues steadily decline as a result. The chief source of rental revenue for unique locations is the wedding market. Successful venues offer nice views, attractive gardens, and a big room that seats over 150 guests. Whether that's an actual room like the Marion Tribute House Ballroom in Marion or a tent grafted onto a terrace as at Appleford Mansion in Villanova. The best venues charge upwards of $7,000 a season, in season, and host over 40 weddings a year. Bar and bat mitzvahs, corporate meetings, and receptions provide additional income, but in no way compare with weddings as a source of income. A couple of statistics tell the tale of the Willows' recent history. The township estimates that weddings accounted for a paltry 10 to 15% of event bookings between 2010 and 2012. Now, that percentage, frankly, should be well over 50%. And while the Willows posts an in-season Saturday rate of $4,300, over 80% of all weddings from 2010 to 2012 were booked at the township rate of $3,250 or $3,250 by the township residents, resulting in an in-season rate that is well below the market. So you combine a couple of those factors and it illustrates the decline. We believe that rental rates and revenues will rise while township expenses fall over the next 5 years as a result of improvements in the following areas. Sales and marketing, bookings, building management, building and grounds maintenance, improvements to the mansion and grounds, solarium terrace enlargement, and the addition of a permanent tent. Each of these areas is addressed in detail in our proposal to the township. Suffice it to say, for the sake of brevity, that Perfect Setting proposes to take over the sales, marketing, and most of the building management functions at the Willows. Working with the township, we intend to make improvements to the interior spaces with an emphasis on furnishings and decor. Partnering with our friends at the Party Center, we propose to extend the back terrace and attach a fully outfitted 3-season tent to the solarium. Chris will now take a couple of seconds to explain the plan. Chris? I think that's your pointer.
Thank you. My name is Chris Cabot. I'm the CEO of the Party Center. We do numerous events in the area. We do the Radnor Hunt Club races. That's this year's 2012 race. We do the Devon Horse Show, our Drawson Estates. When Overbrook had the fire several years ago, we were the company that came in, fully floored a freestanding tent for the ballroom space, luncheon, dinner space, men's grill area. They were up and running probably within a week or two. What I would propose for the Willows, and Sherry and I have been doing business for a lot of years and we came together on this project, would be to do a tent that would butt up to the solarium. I've worked the facility since I was in high school, many, many years. So what I'd like to do is create our event ballroom space adjacent off of the solarium. That would encompass a fully floored tent that would go on the patio and extend off of the patio as well. As Shannon was saying, the size was about right, about a 40 by 100 would be nice sized tent to accommodate that 150 guest count right around there for a wedding market. The tent would be fully lined, carpeted, fully temperature controlled. We'd have sliding sidewalls as well. And the nice thing about the creating the tent right up to the solarium is that your access in and out of the mansion is seamless. So for restrooms, handicap accessibility, you're right in there. This is an event at Caronwood, which we're the exclusive party rental and tent company. In this particular wedding, we did a floored tent. There was heaters there. It was mid-October. You can see the transition from the ground was uneven where we leveled it, guardrailed it, heated it, carpeted it, and walled it for the wedding. Again, we do all the events at Caronwood, to name the estates that we work at. So that's what I have as far as the tent and party rental. Again, I'm very familiar with the area. I have numerous customers in the area. It's a family business, and I think that with our expertise with Jerry and I overseeing the facility, it would be a very good, nice facility to have weddings.
Thank you. To facilitate our vision for this truly unique location, we propose a straightforward, uncomplicated, performance-based agreement between the tent company and the township to sell and cater parties at the Willows. The income sources for the township will be familiar, clear, and transparent. The Perfect Setting sales team would present building rental prices along with a package that includes the catering and tent components, providing customers with information about the complete cost of hosting an event. Building rental deposits made payable to the township will be collected by Perfect Setting and forwarded to the township. Perfect Setting and the Party Center will derive their income from catering sales, tent, and party rentals. I'd like to direct your attention for a second to that projection and obviously start by taking you right to the asterisk, because I put it there because 2013 is obviously a problematic year for, I think, the property. As I understand it thus far, there have been precious few, if any, rentals for 2013. And the relationships with some of the organizations who've been there year in and year out may be changing. So my only point in bringing that up is 2013 could quite frankly be year one, 2014. And I think that's pretty obvious to those who've been watching the numbers over there. These numbers are realistic and conservative, I believe. They anticipate a changed environment at the Willows that will thrill and excite both township residents and prospective clients. Vastly improved revenues don't require wholesale renovations. They require interior spaces that are fresh and well appointed, a gorgeous ballroom that seamlessly connects to the solarium, and flower gardens for those all-important photographs. And I hasten to add a cater and a tent company that occupy the middle of the market. We intend to sell parties there. And I think by opening yourself up to as many customers as possible is a good thing. Online calendars show Friday, Saturday, Sunday bookings for Murray & Tribute House, Appleford, and Cairnwood from this December 2012 through November 2013 at 83, 52, and 83 events respectively. That's Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And of course, they still haven't sold the last 4 months of 2013. Now, those are weddings. Those are successful venues. So you can see from our weddings totals, 41 in 2016, that we are not being overly aggressive with these projections. It should also be noted that our proposal indicates rental rates for the building alone will rise to $5,000 for Saturdays in season for residents in the 4th year. The way we work the numbers, having taken a look at your projections, the projection presented us by the township, basically show against expenses, servicing the debt, dealing with direct operating expenses to the township, and some of the in-kind labor and equipment lines that I saw. I can honestly say that we should be passing break even based on those estimates by year 3. And I think that's conservative and realistic. And again, it's a simple plan of operation. We're not moving heaven and earth. We're just operating the facilities better and to their highest potential. We believe that our plan offers the best way forward for the Willows as it aggressively addresses the budgetary deficits while preserving the park intact. It should be noted that our proposal is not incompatible with any plan by the township to create a second use for the Willows Mansion during the week, since our proposal generally involves Friday evenings, Saturdays, and Sundays. Thanks very much. Any more, Craig? No. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Questions?
I guess just to be fair on the projections you had for the township in years 2010 through 12, the building has been shuttered, unshuttered, shuttered, unshuttered.
Yes.
So
I'm aware, but what's
let's
interesting
be clear
about
that you know
I'm aware of
you
that.
can't. So those events scheduled, are a little misleading.
True. But I will note that you didn't do any worse in your weddings when you were shuttered last year than you did the year before when you were still selling it. I mean, it just requires, I think,
I understand. I'm just.
I know you said that in your proposal, you talk about certain upgrades that would need to be made, and you envision those being shouldered by the township. Is that accurate?
Yeah, well, not completely. We we don't intend to lease, we don't intend to buy, we intend to operate. So therefore, I think this remains a township asset. We would be prepared to spend dollars on interior furnishings and upgrades of the sort, but I think, and again, this is still an open-ended conversation, I think paint and paper and fixtures would be a township responsibility.
Okay. But those aren't built into the projections, though, like any of the other issues. I mean, we've been working with this with the needed upgrades to this facility for the last 6 months.
I'm sure
here.
you have.
I mean, those aren't built into those sort of things to make it up to the standard, I guess, that you would need to sort of take it to the next level of proposing. They're not built into those projections, though.
Well, again, the upgrades are not, again, enormous. They're, in our judgment, there is the addition of the tent to attach to the building, which is the key component, creating the room. There is minor paint and paper perhaps necessary inside to create some cohesion in those spaces. And then there is our role in providing furnishings to complete that picture. Things like annual flowers and the expansion of gardens are certainly something that we might want to have a conversation with you about us doing. I don't have any expenses to you, in our projections.
Do you factor in operating costs once you're up and running, for example, utilities and things like that? Would that be borne by the township, or will that go back to you? And again, that ties in with what Andy is saying.
Right. Well, we're not leasing the premises. We're operating the premises. Ideally, you'll be pleased with the level of income and be happy to pay your utilities.
I chuckle at that because I'm never happy with paying expenses, but.
Your proposal has nothing to do with the cottage, is that right?
It doesn't at this time. I mean, honestly, I chose not to go there because again, as I said, this is an operator's proposal for the mansion.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that the cottage might not play a rental role down the road, but candidly, it's not an obvious one. It really isn't. There's so much that needs to be done there. It's in a floodplain. Can you put a tent on it and rent it? Potentially, but I think that might involve other partners.
Thanks.
Sure.
You mentioned your tent for 3 seasons. I think we've heard some other possible proposals of a year-round tent. Have you considered that to increase the opportunities for rentals, or is that out of the question?
It's not out of the question. Really, January, February, March, that first quarter is really slow season. So
It's
we
slow
leave
for
it up
everything.
until December, which is obviously popular.
Can you guys just make sure you use the mic? I apologize, just in order for it to be able to come over across the TV.
Our first quarter, that January, February, March, is really, not really a party season, but up to December definitely is for Christmas and weddings.
How big is the tent going to be, or how many people at an event would you consider having?
Well, we project about a 40 by 100 tent, so that's 4,000 square feet. So, easily 150, 180.
And have you seen the kitchen facilities over there, and do they accomplish what you need, or would you be looking for the township to improve those
Do
facilities?
not need to improve the kitchen facility. They're perfectly adequate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jerry, one last question. With regard to the site fees, which are the revenues that are coming to the township, the subsidy that has been given in the past to township residents for the utilization, if that continues, that's borne by the township, meaning we could increase our figure if we didn't subsidize township residents in the site fees.
You could, but I fold into these numbers, participation by the township at reduced rates going forward. I did recommend that percentage might decline by just a hair. I mean, it's generous. And perhaps, the town, the definition of who qualifies as a township resident might go under review, but, but it's been, I think positively it should be, fully utilized by the township as it has been in the past. The number of events that obviously we're referring to where the dollars are probably don't exceed 60 to 75 a year. Again, as another one of your presenters had said, there's a lot of dates available. I would, and I think that's a bookings, a common bookings system between perhaps Park and Recreation and the operator.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob McManus, come on down.
Work this clicker. I am a Radnor resident, and I come to this through preservation, promotion, and production. Preservation, I had a keen interest in preserving a building in Middletown Township, and I wanted to turn 2 old colonial buildings into a wedding facility. It took a lot of logistics and a discussion with Wawa, but it's still ongoing. That's when I met Tammy, and she said, you know, we have this problem with the Willows. And I said, oh. I've been to 2 weddings at the Willows. My brother got married there. My kids entertained themselves there with me, and I love the building quite a bit. And I spent a lot of time this summer there, and I noticed a lot of things. I mean, Betty works hard booking the facility. It's hard to book a facility, an elegant wedding, when you have 10 to 12-year-olds playing chess or playing guitar or something like that. So I understand the recreation program overlaps the wedding business, but I'm going to propose an alternative idea, and we'll see how far that gets with you guys. But principally, I want to present this sort of 40s glamour wedding facility. So we call To the Manor Born. We're sort of referring to the Philadelphia story. Kate Hepburn depicted Hope Scott, who lives across the street, and Kate was a constant guest of the Zanzingers. So it's a good reference point. We can't refer to her a whole lot because we probably pay a licensing fee, but it's not a bad jump-off point for people who've never heard of the Willows. So let's begin. What's first here? What is? Click here. That sound. Oh, okay. So we need to reposition the building, the facility, and instead of talking about an old mansion, which is failing in the last couple of years, we'll talk about an elegant estate. And when the revival's complete, we'll have something that other facilities don't have. No one can really, I haven't been to too many places that has the estate character. There are some places that are building wedding facilities and calling themselves estates, but they're just not estates. And the Willows is an estate. So let's play up the estate character. Let's consider the hollow along with it, because we can hike through the hollow. We can host a lot of people there if we fix all the bedrooms properly. And we can charge a great deal. We just have to bring the Willows back to do that. So the promise to the consumers is we'll offer something, we'll offer more amenities and more time than any location facility can offer. These are places that are compressed because they have somebody behind them. You're booking an event, and then another event's behind you, and they push you out. Well, we're not going to have that experience, because we're going to have a To the Manor Born experience, which is a prolonged experience. And we'll offer it at a price point that destination facilities can't offer. When a destination facility, I'm looking at the Ashford Estate in Allentown, New Jersey. You come in there, you check in at 2 o'clock. You have your ceremony, you have your reception, you spend the night, and then you wake up and you leave and you check out at 11 o'clock. And for that, they get $28,000. Now, can we do that at the Willows? Of course we can. In fact, we can do it even far better than they do it. So there's 8 elements to our revival. To move us from the $3,500 market space to the $25,000 market space, we need to upgrade the accommodations in the cottage and mansion. That will take some money, and we do have code issues, but I'm going to paint a picture to say that it's worth doing. 43 beds allows the Willows to go from a location to destination market, upgrade our facilities, appeal to a wider market, capture lost revenues from the wedding hotels like Radnor, Embassy Suites, et cetera. We supply multiple venues to capture conflict dates. Now, right now, that seems nonsensical, because we don't have enough dates to talk about conflict dates. But what I propose is going to speak to more than just a local resident who lives in the area. I'm going to speak to a much bigger opportunity. Supply robust ownership level management of payrolls, utilities, supplies, materials. This is sort of I was sort of Tammy's problem this summer, because I would ask her questions about the property report that no one asked her before. And I just getting into the minutia of, like, you know, what's this dollar figure for? What's this debt service for? Did you get the money to put a new roof on the building? You know, et cetera. So I'm frugal by nature, and I'm going to bring that level of of look at this invoice and what is this from and did you actually do this work? That's what I'm going to bring to this facility. With facility and service upgrades in place, we're going to move the Willows from the mid-market to a high-end market, and I call the town and country market. These are people who have to spend $100,000 on a wedding, or they don't get in the magazine. There's a certain segment of the society that needs to spend a lot of money to maintain their status. Now, they go to Hotel DuPont, they go to Waldorf Astoria, they go to hotels downtown, they drop a lot of money. We can do this elegant event, and we can charge a good amount of money and get us into that $25,000 setting. Why can we do this? Because the Willows brand is really unique. We have natural beauty, we have a four-season place that not too many people have. It's special. And it's special because it was landscaped that way by the guy who built it, Sarah Pilling's grandfather. So my expertise is lighting and production, so I would create some atmosphere here. Obviously, it would just uplit the mansion there on the right. That's a picture you haven't seen before, but it's a mansion on the hill. It should glow at night. People should see it and say, what's that? And right now you have lighting that's all down. That's park lighting. That's not estate lighting. Not expensive to change all this. It's very cheap, in fact. So be light the small trees, floodlight the large trees. And if you're worried about people losing their way walking down the pathway, they're not going to, because the ambient light is enough light. You don't need a light directly on the path. You can the ambient light from the trees, etc. Willows Rent is also unique estate services, so I propose a high tea. That will be everybody who's coming for the wedding at 4 o'clock has a high tea. It's a very low dollar event. You're talking about 2 people. It's not expensive to host a high tea. Outdoor dining, this depicts the swimming pool coming back. Now, I know the swimming pool is a sticky wicket. You fill it in because of liability issues. However, this day and age, we have pool covers that are very robust. You've seen the ad with the elephant standing on them. You can lock them. You can fence the area. You can put electronic eyes in. In 74, 75, when you filled in the pool, none of that stuff was available. But it's all available now, and I propose we bring it back because it's a very festive location, and you really can't have an estate without a pool. Also, local residents will enjoy it when we're not using it. And a lot of people are on waiting lists at Conestoga Swim Club and other places, so we'll have a pool. Fine furnishings for the bedrooms, principally the second floor bedrooms, which all have their own bath. We're looking at that's a facility for the bride. The parents of the bride, uncles, grandparents, essentially the people who are paying for the event, are going to have their own elegant bedroom with their own bathroom. Next morning, have a brunch, also another low dollar figure. It's not expensive to host a brunch, like a hotel brunch where it's all you walk out and you feed yourself in the buffet. Poolside massage would be for the event day. You're talking about brides and bridesmaids, etc., and then a carriage ride. So these are unique things that other venues don't offer, but we can offer it because we have all these assets in place. We even have a barn down in the cottage for horses. And finally, again, levering the Kate Hepburn idea. You have embroidered terry cloth robes, $50 robe. It's very high end, and we'll just put an embroidery. I'm not married to any of these things, but I'm just borrowing them based on what's already at the Willows. So I don't think a man is going to have a heart on his blazer, but on his terry cloth robe. But he might have a building. That's sort of what they do for hunting events in West Virginia. You'll get a little robe that looks like the building. Now, instead of paying $1,000 or $10,000 or all kinds of money to advertise this facility, thinking we're going to bring people back because we're going to spend money, I'm going to say, until we upgrade stuff, until we fix the interior, until we make it a better place, don't spend a dime on that stuff because you're just bringing them in for them to turn around and walk away. Right now, we're not a competitive facility. My best friend, Pete McKenna, who's a builder in the area, he brought his daughter Audie in. She left in 4 minutes. She got to the dining room and turned around. Okay, it's not an elegant place right now. She didn't even get upstairs to the bride's room. She turned around. She spent $31,000 at the Phoenixville Country Club, even though she lives a block and a half away. Okay? We got to be more competitive. So, before we start to spend any more money, I want to market the event, market the facility for girls' getaways and bridal showers. This is, of course, after we've upgraded the bedrooms. So these are the people, this is our market. These are their mothers and the girls that are going to get married. We want them to come and get familiar with the place. Weekends away, all of us adults who have kids at home and maybe want to break from the kids, that's a standard issue right there. Weekends away, you don't have to go to the shore, just go to the Willows. And this is a monthly marketing event. So again, instead of paying for advertising, we get people in the building. So January, New Year's, every month we'd have a different one. Mardi Gras in March. In the summer we can have pool parties. October, Hallow Hayride. Again, these will become exclusive events. Only 200 people can come. They'll be RSVP'd, and in no time we'll have overflow crowds. And now we've reoriented people to the Willows. The Willows is now hip. And that's what we intend to do. And all these people are single, and they're all looking to get married someday. So we're all selling to them all the time. An annual marketing event would be a Turkey Bowl tournament. Now, old athletes play a touch football game almost into their 40s, sometimes 50s. I had Bill Giles out there, and he's 54 years old. We played football with him, Turkey Bowl. I'm thinking get the schools, get with the alumni associations, and get the kids from the 80s, 90s, 10s, and get them to play a touch football game. It'll be a tournament, and we'll keep rivals away from each other. This is a way to drive men into the facility. This will be 100 people, 100 men, 8 teams, 12 teams each, 12 people, 12-man football. 5 guys would watch 7 on 7. And at the end of it, they get T-shirts, a video of the event, trophy, and we just stack the trophy up like the Stanley Cup with the turkey on top, and it'll be something that the players will hold and take a picture and put in the Mainline Times. I'm glad you're laughing. Pizza, beer, big screen until it runs out. Annual marketing, this is our media event. This is the Willows 60. Now, the Philadelphia Road Race is an annual event, but there's no warm-up. And you see a lot of these people in their funny clothes, Europeans, out racing around our streets before the event. They're here to get used to the humidity. We can have a race, and we can call it the Willow 60. Comcast will produce it. I just got to sell the advertising to the pharmaceutical companies and the auto dealers, and they already do these events. So now, every time they pass the Willows Gate, coming around the Willows Gate again, it's going to be a regional television show, and they'll reproduce it all. They'll play it all the time. They'll repeat it. They'll put it on a loop because just to fill up the time. The Sawmill Hill, it mimics the wall. The Manayunk Wall is a treacherous, really frightening. You can see the elevation of it. Everybody drove their car up there in the winter. It's a challenge. But the Sawmill mimics that quite a bit. And therefore, we'd be getting people ready for this road race. Plus, we could host some of the racers because we're not too far. If you look from the map, we're not too far from the race itself. Okay, so what would a To the Manor Born weekend look like? These numbers are estimates. I've been advised that I'm a little ambitious with that, and I believe that's true. So check in at 3:30. We would have a van that would go to the airport, go to the train, pick up people. Check in. You'd get your robe, or you get a bath wrap, depending on the preference of the bridesmaids. 4 o'clock, we have our tea. It's going to be in the Rose Garland room, which is, as everybody has described, an expanded veranda. Enclose the veranda. You connect the billiards room, you connect the solarium, and now you have a sit-down for $175. It's not ideal. You still have a tiny wall, but everybody's in the same room, and if you're situated at the right place, you can see the bride and groom out, and over their shoulder is the pond. Okay, so we can get there. 5 o'clock, there'll be transportation. That's just an idea for a magnet to go on the side of the van that's taking people around. A big van wrap is about $5,000. And until we have revenues, I'm not going to pay for that. Also, some of them are gauche. Let's try to stay classy as we can because we have a classy place. Classy. So cocktails, dinner, we have a lot of locations for this. The ones we're familiar with, library and dining room. This is new. So we look at the studio down in the cottage, and I want to put a hardwood floor in there, principally because, again, I don't want Betty or me or somebody trying to sell past 10 or 12-year-olds. I can't. It's really hard to sell in LA. I saw Betty twice this summer, and she had the couple in tow and their parents, and the kids were like, they were running all over the place. They were playing guitar, a guy saying "Kumbaya." You can't imagine an elegant wedding facility with that environment. It can't be done. So I propose bringing that back. That floor is like $3,000 to $4,000. The windows are, the new doors are already in place, but the windows need to be upgraded. But that's a good recreation space. Let's move the kids down there. I like kids, I have 2 of my own, but I don't want to sell a wedding against them. It's hard to do. That's what I mean. I was quoted in Philadelphia Business Journal. We're downselling a mansion instead of upselling an estate. When I said downselling, I mean even I could sell this couple past. You can't squint and imagine that this is an elegant space. So that's another cocktail dining location in the cottage studio. Poolside, again, bring back the pool. Highest use, the pool is not a tree planter. The pool is a pool. So pay the money, bring the pool back. Dining pavilion, that covered area there, you could put about 65 people there. I project the pool can do about 100 people for a reception. Cocktail dinner, this is the Rose Garland Room. I call it that. I don't know if other people have called it that. I'm not a big fan of that picture on the right, but that's close of what an enclosed veranda would look like. Again, between the billiards room, the solarium, and the covered veranda, it's 175 people as per 18.5 square feet per person. Again, we just had a long event, 6-hour dinner, not a 4-hour dinner, like you get pushed out of a hotel or a restaurant. Now you can just drink all you want, have as much fun as you want, and retire. We're really well situated for this because in the second floor, you got brides, grandparents, uncles, aunts, older people who want a bathroom right there, okay? That's what we have in the second floor. Third floor, we have bridesmaids, female cousins, more of a sorority atmosphere, right? Now, we can put about 12 people up there. I want to put more up there when we put some dormers up because we lost 4 dormers, 2 corner dormers and 2 back dormers. I want to bring the dormers back so we can put more people up there. That, of course, revenues are going to have to drive that. Cottage, groomsmen, male cousins. Now, you look at the picture and you go, well, it's sort of feminine, Rob. Yeah, it is. It's deliberate. We're selling girl getaways first and foremost, right? So they're going to be in there. But we also want bunk room, quads, doubles, triples, whatever we can get in the cottage because we want to dissuade the groomsmen from their wedding exercises, let's call it. And because none of us want the liability of that. You and me, nobody wants that, especially the parent who pays for all this. Wake up in the morning, they'll wake up late because they drank all night, 10 a.m., champagne brunch, mansion service. Glad you're laughing, she's a good audience. 2 p.m., poolside massage, so we have the beauty of the brunch is it's 2 meals. And it's giving them the idea that this is an all-inclusive place. We didn't cater the dinner the night before. We're not catering the reception. But this brunch is a very affordable thing to do. 3 people could do this. Line cook, sous chef, and an omelet chef could do this, as long as I am sort of picking up the pieces in between. But then, so 4-hour event, we go to poolside massage, again, bring the pool back because it's elegant. And we do that May through September, and with global warming, maybe into October. I don't know. But the pavilion will be just like the dining pavilion. There'll be echoes of each other. One's bigger, of course. But that area, you see that footprint right there, that's about the footprint we have right now. That was the sitting area to watch people play tennis. And that is the pool, that is a tent placement. So we'll talk about that in a second. 2 p.m., you could hike through the Hollow, January through December. I did the Hollow. I love the Hollow. There are parts in this state that have a hollow just like that, but you have to get really far away from here. And then suddenly find it here is special. And there'll be people from the city who have never seen a hollow, and they'll be shocked to walk through the hollow. Now, that view on the left there, that sort of mimics the view of the turn off of Darby Paoli, where the dump trucks go and dump the leaves, etc. That's a special, special view. And I'm going to propose down the road, when you trust me more, that we use that view for another purpose. But this is Little Darby Creek. There's some special photographic moments there that are not being used, and we should use them. 3 o'clock, ceremony preparation, nursery, bride's room, cottage. So the nursery, of course, is now considered the living room in the help quarters. That's with the fireplace. That would be a good hair and makeup location. Bride's room, she has her own room at the top of the stairs. In the cottage, the men are getting ready there. 4:30, there's a carriage ride. If the ceremony's on site, then she goes, with her father in this last parade of her youth. I think that's a very seminal moment. I think it'll be a grand moment. It's an elegant thing. Again, not too many people can do this. They can't offer it. We can. 5 o'clock, we have a lot of ceremony locations. We're familiar with the library. It's a little boutique, probably a second marriage, right? 100 people. Courtyard, 200. That's my brother. That's my mom. She, by the way, is the daughter of James Patrick Considine, who saved the first Synod House from the wrecking ball. When Joseph Synod died, Mary Synod had 7 kids, and so my grandfather purchased that estate, the Rathala estate, for the Holy Child Nuns to start Rosemont College. That's a little shout out to my mom. 5 p.m. ceremony. This has not been discussed by anybody, but I want you to consider it the Wishing Well Ballroom. Nice picture of the lake house there. There you go. Shout out to you, Glenn. Goby lights. These are easy to do. That chandelier, a little complicated. That's good by you. But lighting, theatrics, that's my background. 10 years I produce events just like this, Rolling Stone concerts, big stages, Paul McCartney, David Bowie. I'll sign autographs later. Wishing Well. The Wishing Well is now a turnaround for people who don't want to walk up the hill. This is a perfect octagon. 33 feet on each wall. It's probably the most productive room I've ever seen, waiting to be. Really, really special. And if we move the trash that I cropped out of the shot, we'll look out to the pool. It'll be a nice long view to the pool, glowing at night for our twilight receptions. We also have the pool creekside. That's a famous shot by one of our photographers at the Willows. Beautiful fall event. The 250 people can go there. Cottage side. Some people are going to poo-poo this and say, Rob, it's a floodplain. Hey, it's a floodplain one day out of 50 years. It floods. Maybe twice in 20 years on a rare occasion. That's a space, because it slopes down, that you can set chairs up. It's a perfect atrium. Ceremony's right there for 300. Or we can go into the horseshoe. We want to stay as much away from the horseshoe as we can because it's a recreational area, I understand. But we can put a tent there. Those tents, the same tent, Open Air Affairs left, so I won't offend anybody, but Open Air Affairs tent, I went to Pearl Buck, love it. It's a 50 by 100 with a 15-foot covered patio. Call up Anchor Industries, it's $65,000. Do we need to get a partnership with Open Air Affairs? Or do we just buy a tent for $65,000? Because we rent it once, it pays for itself. Okay? So I love tents. I love ballrooms. They pay for themselves. This we would connect to a covered walkway back to the cottage where people could go to the bathroom. Photographs 5:45, 6:30, twilight reception. This is the smallest reception area. 100 people, $20 a head. That's a low number, but that's about right. 100 people fit in our pool. Rose Garland room, 175 people, so 20 people, $3,500. $4,000 for a mansion tent, because 200 people fit into that. We've already do that. The Wishing Well Ballroom is about $250. That's pushing it a little bit. It might be $225. So, twilight reception, pool tent, poolside tent. This is where the tent should, in my view, go tennis court. The overgrown tennis court is a perfectly flat 50 by 110. Put a tent right there. There's bathrooms there. Just bring them back. Not hard to do. Cottage tent, again, that's a bigger event. That's 350 people. I talked to the Open Air Affairs guy out at his Pearl Buck estate, and he's done 275 to 400, depending on how you configure the tables. 400 is for an Indian wedding. Smashing everybody together. They're all relatives, so they don't mind. Now, after party. This will distinguish us from all other wedding facilities, having an after party. Cottage entertainment deck. That's not that expensive to do. Again, it's in a floodplain, but we build it up, so we're not worried about that. After party at the estate pool. So think of the bridesmaids, the grooms. They've all been wearing their funny clothes all day long, and now they want to move along. So Hilltop Spa, that's where the cistern is right now. That's an idea for grandparents, et cetera. And then a Bloody Mary brunch, 2 p.m. checkout. All right, so this is where I'm going to introduce my designers and talk about the first couple improvements in the mansion that are real important. So Gail and Ida. So these are the price points for this upgrade. The price points down below the second floor hallway, are for the tent, cottage pool, restaurant, ballroom.
Excuse me, Rob, just in the interest of keeping with the time commensurate with the other proposers, about 5 more minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
And allowing for Q&A in there too.
Yeah, they're more important than me, so go ahead.
Hi, my name's Ida McCausland, and I am an interior designer. But more importantly, I'm the mother of 3 daughters in their 20s who will all be looking for wedding venues in the next few years. I did look at the Willows, and I have to agree with others. It's rather tired and worn looking. Wouldn't want to rent it at this point. But we did look at some of your competition to see where are people going if they're not coming here. We looked at Hunting Hills in Newtown Square, and we looked at, Hunting Hills in Ridley, and we looked at Hilltop in Newtown Square. Neither one of these has the facilities or the ability to produce what the Willows has. Hilltop can accommodate 240 people if you put your guests in 6 different spaces. They can hold 1 event at a time. They allow no outdoor music or speakers. Hunting Hills, it's a beautiful ballroom. Will take 175 people, but it's their only space. And your guests must enter through the park office. So if they want to pick up a brochure for the park, it's very handy that way. The Willows has advantages none other has. It has history, rich spaces to accommodate various sized groups, and it's able to host multiple events at the same time. Research tells us that people make a decision on buying a home within the first 3 minutes of entering the space. If they're willing to make such a huge investment in 3 minutes, their decision to rent or not to rent will be made in much less time. Your first impression is going to be your only impression. If you don't wow them when they walk through the door of the Willows, no amount of touring and amenities is going to make them change their mind. Once the Willows is refurbished, it will be the destination to host your most memorable celebrations and community events. Other people see the Willows as Cinderella the scullery maid now, but we see the Willows as Cinderella the princess dressed for the ball.
How are you? I'm Gail Simon. Thank you so much for letting us come in and share our ideas of what we think the Willows, the estate, the mansion, what we think we can do to help bring it back and to have people who come through the doors, all of your township residents, once they get actually back into the actual mansion itself, they'll walk through and say, wow, we really had no idea that this is what was being done here, and they will start thinking weddings, anniversaries, the memories, again, will all start coming back to your township residents. We are, and I know this particular group, we're more interested in how your township residents will be utilizing the property. We want to maintain that. Well, in the essence of time, I will cut the rest of my speech shorter, and we would like to show you what Ida and I have put together for what we're calling To the Manor Born. And we'll start off, we'll show you all these, and we'll try to go through them quickly. But there's some visuals for you to look at.
Do we have a portable? Do we have a handheld mic? Only because the folks at home can't hear.
We do, but at this point,
Okay.
we have to.
Yeah, running.
My fault.
We have to, in the interest of time.
Starts in the flare, because the questions are so important. We're using all neutral colors. Sure.
I'll be the point.
Okay. Okay, this is the wow factor in the foyer. Everything is done in very neutral elegance, so it doesn't compete with any decor, any scheme, any photographs, any colors. All the fabrics are heavy duty, but they're extremely elegant. The furniture is timeless. It's reminiscent of the 30s and 40s, the glamour age. It's very beautiful. It's made to last. It will look good as good in 10 years as it is when it's installed. Side panels will show off the windows and create a welcoming view from the outside. The ivory walls and a pearlized molding to accent the beautiful moldings that are in the foyer. In the dining room, we've installed wallpaper above the chair rail to add interest to the walls without competing. We've added a fireplace mantle to finish off the space and to complement it, and 3 chandeliers down the center of the room allow you for various table arrangements without ever looking odd. Again, it's the view that you want to emphasize, and so only side panels. The library, which is the last space that we're working with on this floor, we were painting the plaster ceiling white to reflect some more light, and we're replacing the black track lights with smaller bronze ones so they just fold up into the ceiling. We were replacing the sconces with identical ones since they're all a little different. We'll add simplicity and beauty without being feminine, and again, side panels on the windows to give some softness to the wooden room.
I apologize, but just in the interest of time, we do have to keep moving. The presentations were to be kept to 20 minutes, allowing with just a small Q&A.
This is all available to you, Willows Revival schedule, what to do first, success metrics. This is certainly involved, 193 events to get to $1 million in 10 years. That'll be hard. It would be a lot easier just to do a wedding weekend where you get 25 grand a pop. The open space study allowed for an expansion of parking to the right there by the picnic area. So to accommodate 2 events at the same time, the parking space expansion is already in your open space plan from, I believe it's 2001. I could be wrong on that date. So recap, estate pool, bring that back. Rose Garland room new, Wishing Well ballroom new, pool tent new, cottage tent new, done. Sorry it took so long.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you, Rob. That was outstanding. We
Any
appreciate
questions?
it.
Oh, but there was some talk about an asphalt shingle on the cottage. There's no asphalt shingles in the cottage. They're on the garage. I do have a bid going out for this, and if this fall on anybody's head, you'd die. So this is about 40 loose panels right now on the roof at the mansion, and we should fix that.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate it.
All right.
Next up, we have Short Corporation. Gentleman back. Anyone from Short Corporation? I guess we're done. Anyone want to make public comment? Thank you very much. We appreciate your time this evening.